Good day everyone and welcome to this AU research undertaking with the theme Challenging Disciplinary Boundaries, Internationalization, and Globalization. Researching may help us comprehend how something works and why, what the long and short-term consequences are, and provide an explanation and reason for decisions and actions. It can also assist in dealing with the unforeseen by identifying issues and encourage change. This is the very essence of our gathering today as we showcase the studies of our students and teachers. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the research works of the elementary, junior high school, and senior high school departments.
Hello everyone! This is the presentation of our investigatory project, Making Eco-Friendly Air Freshener Using Kitchen Ingredients. What are the ingredients in the kitchen that can be used making air freshener? Is it effective? Is it easy to do? Let's find out!
Air fresheners are bought and used by the people to remove unpleasant odors in their houses. These products are designed to release scents to the air with the intention to create a pleasing indoor space. Air fresheners also help neutralize odors and give our home a clean and fresh scent. The pleasant fragrances found in air fresheners can provide additional benefits, including positive impacts on mood, stress reduction, and improved memory and sleep. Certain scents can even improve physical or cognitive performance.
However, air fresheners that are sold in the markets are said to increase air pollution and pose health risks. These products have VOCs or volatile organic compounds that are harmful to the environment and human health. They're also costly.
Thus, it is advised that using non-toxic or eco-friendly air fresheners should be used. These air fresheners are natural and contain ingredients gathered from plants and essential oils. They can be homemade because most of the ingredients are available in the kitchen. Making homemade air fresheners can be also fun and doesn't require so much money to spend too.
In this project, we have two main objectives that we need to achieve. First is to be able to make an eco-friendly air freshener using ingredients found in the kitchen.
Second, to be able to make effective and easy to do air fresheners.
In this project, we will be needing the following kitchen ingredients and materials. First is 5 pieces calamansi as the main ingredient, and we also need other ingredients such as 2 tablespoons of rock salt and 2 tablespoons of 70% alcohol. We also need other materials such as small bowl and knife.
Here are the step-by-step procedures in making the eco-friendly air freshener. Step 1. Wash the calamansi and slice them in halves. Step 2. Place the sliced calamansi in the bowl. Step 3. Pour 2 tablespoons of salt on the calamansi. Step 4. Pour 3 tablespoons of 70% alcohol. Step 5. Place it on your desired area inside the house. Making homemade air freshener is easy and cheap when we use things that are available in the kitchen. Calamansi, as the major ingredient, is a fruit citrusen that is effective in neutralizing the fish smell in the kitchen and the foul odor in the bathroom, combined with salt, which prevent the homemade air freshener from mold, and alcohol, which helps the homemade air freshener to dry faster. The product becomes very effective. The procedure is very simple and easy that any 6 years old kid can do. The ingredients used do not contain chemicals that can harm the environment nor cause illness to the people inside the house. The mild scent is good for babies and elders in the family. The activity also promotes awareness among children on the issue of protecting the environment from harmful chemicals that are found in most commercial products. Homemade air fresheners can also be made by using other fruits that have strong and fresh scents. Herbs and seeds can also be used. Researchers are advised to look for more natural ingredients suggested from different websites that are possible to use and can create eco-friendly air fresheners. The use of salt and alcohol must be retained. Children should be encouraged in involving themselves in this kind of activity or science project.
After 1 week, it still smells good. The pieces of calamansi turn brown and hard.
Welcome, panelists, to the Research Arellano University Andres Bonifacio Campus Junior High School Department on the effectiveness of using taro starch as a component in the development of making biodegradable plastic. Thank you for attending this virtual event. I am Alicia Isabel Elgan, your speaker. Taro is known scientifically as Colocasia esculenta. Taro has been underused, therefore, using it as the primary ingredient to make something crucial for the environment, like bioplastics, would encourage the usage of other underused plants in further beneficial studies and trials. Because it swiftly replaces nearby crops like here in the Philippines, it has earned the label nuisance plant, which is the difficulty for many farmers. Also, by using it to make bioplastics, it will benefit farmers and lessen the quantity of plastic waste that harms the environment. We chose taro instead of potato because, unlike potato, research and experiments about taro are less, and because our country, the Philippines, has many taro root crops, it will be easy to make starches and bioplastics out of it. Especially because many taros just go to waste because of their excessive production. Although it won't help us totally halt climate change and global warming, it is a step result in the direction of a healthier planet. We made 3 statements of the problem in our study. 1. Is using taro starch effective as the main component of making bioplastic? 2. How necessary is the taro starch in the development of biodegradable plastics? 3. What are the key differences of making plastics and the bioplastics the researchers aim to make in the terms of the following? A. Physical appearance. B. Texture. C. Longevity. D. Odor. E. Color. In making bioplastic, the first thing to do is to prepare all the required ingredients and equipment. Those ingredients and equipment are the following. With that being said, let's move on to the procedures. Procedure of taro starch. Making the taro starch is necessary before creating the bioplastic. It will not be able to manufacture the bioplastic without the taro starch. The method for extracting starch from taro is shown here. These are the 6 pieces of taro: a metal tray, a blender, a cutting board, a knife, a piece of cloth, and a bone utilized for this operation. Now that the starch from taro has been removed, a bioplastic can be produced. 4 grams of taro starch, 12 grams of glycerol, 25 ml of white vinegar, 50 ml of distilled water, a pot, measuring cups, a spoon, a spatula, and a mold are all required. As said earlier, the SOP will be answered here in the resultant discussion. First, was using taro starch effective as the main component of making bioplastic? Yes, according to our tests and studies, it has been successful primary ingredient in the production of bioplastic. Second, how necessary is the taro starch in the development of biodegradable plastics? Without taro starch, it is impossible to create this kind of bioplastic. Hence, it is crucial to the creation of biodegradable plastic. Lastly, for the third SOP, in the 4th trial, the physical appearance of the bioplastic resulted in a cup-like bioplastic. Because of the depth of the cup, it can be used to hold liquids like juice or water. The texture in the 4th trial was smooth on the bottom and rocky at the top. It has become like this because of the type of mold that we used, which was a Puto molder. The longevity of the 4th trial, where the measurements per change and dissolving time is now 4 minutes. Even in the 4th trial, the odor of the bioplastic can be smelled, but because of the changes in the measurements in making the bioplastic, the odor is more minimal. From the 1st to 4th trial, the color of the bioplastic did not change despite the changes in the measurements. It remained milk-like color, somewhat clear and somewhat cloudy. The possible colors of it will be discussed later in the recommendations. In the 4th trial, since we got the right measurements but not enough for the mold, we tripled the measurements of the ingredients. 14 grams taro starch, 12 grams glycerol, 25 ml vinegar, and 50 ml water were used. We cooked it for 47 minutes before molding it. We waited for 3 days for it to completely dry, to which we succeeded. And this is our final product. We poured the juice to it to test if it can hold liquids, to which it showed it can. Based on our trials, we had made 3 conclusions. First, our research has proven that taro is an effective component in making bioplastic. Second, the mold was challenging to dry because of the distilled water, and the smell was kind of bad because of the vinegar. And lastly, we concluded that heat is also a part in the development of a bioplastic. Therefore, heat was also adjusted during the cooking stage. It has made a milk-like, somewhat clear color as desired. After our research, we've come up with 4 recommendations for future researchers. First, our study recommends being aware of how heat affects the product while it is in the cooking stage. Second, future studies were recommended to further expand this study and finding other alternatives in preserving materials such as vinegar. Lemon and lime juice can be used instead of vinegar. Third, we recommend using a food dehydrator, an oven, or a hair blower for a quicker drying time. Lastly, we recommend that future researchers use food coloring in order to make a colorful and fun bioplastic. And these are the references we use to complete our research. That concludes our presentation about our research study, the effectiveness of using taro starch as a component in the development of making biodegradable plastic.
A pleasant day to everyone. We are students from grade 10 Isaac Newton of Aurelian University, Jose Rizal campus. And I'm excited to talk to you today about Eclipta prostrata lotion. It's a natural herbal lotion that's believed to have many benefits for the hair and skin. During this discussion, I'll explain the science behind it, its potential benefits, and how it can be used to improve your hair and skin health. Thank you for joining me today, and let's get started. Introduction. Microbes are tiny organisms that can be found almost anywhere and can either be beneficial or harmful to human health. Fungi are a diverse group of organisms that can have therapeutic properties and can be consumed as food, but can also cause diseases and infections. Bacteria play important roles in medicine, fermentation, but can also produce toxins that cause illnesses such as food poisoning, meningitis, and pneumonia. Gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria have different cell wall structures that can affect their elasticity and resistance to antibiotics and other chemicals. Alternative medicines derived from plants such as tinta-tintahan Eclipta prostrata are being studied for their potential antibacterial and antimicrobial properties.
Methodology. Figure 1. Methodology of the research. Tinta-tintahan was found near Barangay Nugan by the researchers. Figure 2. Weighting the leaves. Gathering a kilo sample of tinta-tintahan leaves and separation of the flowers. Figure 3. Preparation for rotary evaporation. Grinding leaves using pestle and mortar. Following that, the leaves were subjected to crude extraction with ethanol as the solvent. Rotary evaporation was used to separate the pure extract from the ethanol in the crude extract. 24 hours later, the researchers developed a 200 ml lotion following the concentration equals to 100 ml lotion plus 30 ml pure extract. On the same day, the sensory evaluation was implemented. Afterwards, the data were gathered and analyzed to come up with a logical conclusion.
Results and discussion. The study conducted by the researchers aimed to determine the cytochemicals present in tinta-tintahan Eclipta prostrata responsible for its antibacterial and antifungal properties and evaluate the acceptability of the developed lotion through sensory evaluation. Based on previous studies, the researchers found that the Eclipta prostrata contains coumestans, alkaloids, flavonoid, glycosides, polyacetylens, and deuterpenoids. Coumestans, alkaloids, flavonoids, glycosides, and tannins are known to have medical value and have antimicrobial properties against both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria and fungi. Sensory evaluation was also conducted to determine the level of acceptability of the developed tinta-tintahan lotion. The results showed that the lotion was highly acceptable in terms of color, odor, texture, and overall acceptability. The lotion was found to have a greenish color, a pleasant smell, a smooth texture, and was overall highly acceptable. Overall, the study suggests that tinta-tintahan Eclipta prostrata is a promising natural ingredient for developing antibacterial and antifungal products, and the developed lotion is highly acceptable to potential users. Conclusions and recommendations. Tinta-tintahan or False Daisy Eclipta prostrata is an annual herbaceous plant that grows in moist area and is adapted to a variety of environments. Tinta-tintahan Eclipta prostrata has a lot of potential as an active ingredient in a lotion because it has a lot of cytochemicals that fight off a lot of gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria and fungi. Subject to develop lotion in a clinical trial. Develop another product with E. prostrata as its active ingredient and create 3 setups, each with different concentrations of extract.
Thank you for your time of listening. We would like to express our gratitude to the references we use in this presentation. Their work and research have been instrumental in shaping our understanding of the topic, and we are grateful for their contributions to the field. Once again, thank you for your attention and for the opportunity to share our knowledge on this topic with you.
Good day everyone, we are the group Archeon, and today we're going to talk about the flower pot made out of waste papers and papaya latex as an alternative biodegradable pot to the normal household pot that we have. Climate change is a threat to all living things, especially human beings, considering that it negatively affects the sustainability of our Earth's ecosystem and global stability. Having an unstable ecosystem will only bring us harm. Humans have a greater contribution to how the environment functions. Human activities that worsen the environmental state include things like cutting trees without planting more, causing big CO2 emissions, wasting paper and such by not recycling, throwing plastic materials and paper waste, and throwing it anywhere. Nowadays, plastic materials have been our mainstay because they are cheap, easy to locate, and easy to use despite their negative effect of it on our global system, and we should not tolerate that. Knowing that plastic materials take up to 450 years to degrade, and when paper is not recycled, 80% of it ends up in landfills. The composition of paper in landfills produces methane, a greenhouse gas with 21 times the heat-trapping power of carbon dioxide. It's harmful. The paper doesn't get to be reused, and instead of recycling the used paper, more trees just get cut down and another cycle of waste happens. That's why our group created a pot that's made up of waste paper and papaya latex. This flower pot is not an ordinary pot because it is a pot that will help us in reducing the use of plastic, which is one of the causes of climate change. We can make sure that this pot does not contain any chemicals that will harm the user and the manufacturer because this pot is made up of organic materials. By using and creating this product, we can contribute a lot to our global system. We can help it heal and prevent climate change. We have two main ingredients to create our flower pot. The first main ingredient was waste papers, and its purpose was to be the foundation and the base of the pot. The second main ingredient was papaya latex, which will make the pot durable and water resistant when planting. On the other hand, the three remaining ingredients are flour, salt, and water. Their purpose was to be the adhesive or glue that will help our product to be stable and sturdy. Shown on the screen are the 13 steps that we followed to make a flower pot made out of waste paper and papaya latex. First statement of the problem. The pot is water resistant because when we try to water the pot, it doesn't dissolve and the other parts manages to control the water flow throughout the pot, while the other parts absorb the water. The pot is coated with papaya latex, which has an enzyme that has hydrophobic amino acids, a type of amino acid which cannot be dissolved in water that makes the pot water resistant. For the assurance of our product stability and durability, we conducted a few experiments for our product's quality. The first experiment is water resistance test, illustrating in these pictures the pot's water resistance. As shown in the photo, in the first to fifth minute, as the water droplet is with the pot, it stays as it is, and the latex manages to stop the spreading of the water. In the next 10 minutes, the water was absorbed. The water leaves a mark, yet it doesn't affect the product as it dries. The water only affects the outside surface. It leaves no effect on the inside. The period of water resistance depends on the amount of the papaya latex. The second experiment is what we call drop test. To be able to test the product stability, we experimented to assure their quality by dropping them over a 14-feet distance. As the video shows, the pot falls. The next photo illustrates the minimal damage that the pot got after falling from the 14-feet distance. It doesn't fully affect the products as only minor issues are encountered. It has similarity to a plastic pot that doesn't break easily. This means that this could be an alternative to plastic pots. Second statement of the problem. Our pot is more environmentally friendly than other pot as we assure that our products are meant to be recycled. The excess paper waste is from us. As students, we are also one of those who consume it the most. Meanwhile, the papaya latex brings no harm from being used as it's organic. These pots are better as there is no waste produced, but waste recycled. It helps with improving the factor that saves the environment, which is recycling. Third statement of the problem. How is it effective to lessen paper waste? Paper waste are one of the main materials to be able to produce this product, meaning we consume paper waste into another product for it to be lessened. Introducing our pot also means raising awareness of the dangers that harmful materials from other pots bring. We have the goal to recycle and raise awareness to avoid consuming too much paper. We aid the harm and offer a better environment once we improve. And that's all for today. Thank you for listening.
Good day, everyone. I am Ina Sarisi Pasadas, your presenter for today, and also a junior high school student from Arellano University, Juan Sumolong campus. Today, I will be introducing to you our research that is entitled The Feasibility of Using Shredded Used Face Masks as a Possible Additive for Concrete. Due to the pandemic, people use face masks in their everyday lives. This has been a common occurrence ever since it has been made mandatory to be worn at all times by the World Health Organization. Thus, this led to a dramatic increase in the usage of face masks in these past 3 years, leading for the masks to pose as an environmental risk that is now called as improper mask disposal. Masks are made up of polypropylene and polyester fibers that can help concrete because it bonds the materials together, and they are also very flexible. They can help increase the compressive strength too. This discovery led the researchers to create a product that will help lessen this certain environmental risk with the use of concrete and masks. This study aimed to evaluate the feasibility of using shredded used face masks as a possible additive for concrete. Specifically, it sought to answer these following questions. Number 1. What are the findings of the 5 trials in terms of workability of material homogeneity, density, and compressive strength? Number 2. How many used face masks are needed in the following? 10 grams, 20 grams, 30 grams, and 40 grams. Number 3, will the concrete with the shredded used face mask as an additive be sustainable? We followed this operational framework to achieve the objectives of this study. There are 3 given determinants for the product's feasibility, the first determinant being the workability of material homogeneity. The first and second trials were properly incorporated with the face mask could no longer be seen in the final product. The third trial were properly incorporated but a small amount of face mask could still be seen in the final product. The fourth and fifth trials were properly incorporated but the face masks are still visible in the final product. The second determinant is the density. The density for the first and second trial is 2.3 grams per cubic centimeter. For the third trial is 2.2 grams per cubic centimeter. For the fourth trial is 2.1 grams per cubic centimeter, while for the fifth trial is 2.0 grams per cubic centimeter. The third determinant is the compressive strength. The first trial has 1,320 psi, the second trial has 820 psi, the third trial has 590 psi, the fourth trial has 370 psi, and the fifth trial has 230 psi. Trials with 4 trials containing used face masks and 1 trial with a normal mix to see how it would compare to each other. For trial 2, there are 10 grams of shredded face mask that consists of 4 pieces of used face mask. For trial 3, there are 20 grams of shredded face mask that consists of 7 pieces of used face mask. For trial 4, there are 30 grams of shredded face mask that consists of 10 pieces of used face mask. And for trial 5, there are 40 grams of shredded face mask that consists of 13 pieces of used face mask. Due to the pandemic, concrete shredded face masks will significantly reduce PPE waste materials. Moreover, if the study is found to be successful, the carbon dioxide emissions from the concrete center would decrease because the production of cement is a carbon-intensive process and accounts for almost 8% of global carbon emissions. If the cylindrical blocks were found to be feasible, these could be used in minor concrete infrastructures at home such as flooring, bench tops, planter boxes, and floating entry treads. The present study shows that only Trial 1 has good results based on the 3 determinants with a rating of 5 in each criterion. The decreasing performance was first observed in the workability of material homogeneity. As the grams of the shredded used face mask increases, the material homogeneity decreases. The density of each trial also dropped as more masks were used. The decrease had an average density of 0.075 as there was a considerable amount of space accumulated from the shredded mass. Thus, it should be finer. The compressive strength of each trial decreased as more masks were used. The decrease had an average PSI of 272.5. This can be explained by the decreasing performance of each cylindrical block in density. Thus, the criteria are directly proportional where one affects the other. Hence, as the material homogeneity decreases, the density decreases. And as the density decreases, the compressive strength also decreases. The study concludes that shredded used face masks reduce the feasibility of an additive for concrete in terms of the workability of the material homogeneity, density, and compressive strength. The mixing ratio can be modified to a varied ratio of ingredients based on the number of masks. In addition, a machine that can shred the mass into small bits is highly encouraged to be used. It is advised that future researchers conduct the compressive strength test, durability test, slump test, the tensile strength test to further evaluate the feasibility of shredded used face masks as an additive for concrete. That is all for our team. Thank you for listening and lending us your time.
Students spend 12 years of their life in education, from which they may develop an academic relationship with their teachers. This may bring either positive or negative outcomes for both ends. That's when the teacher-student relationship goes beyond its limitation. That is the reason why the Department of Education implemented the DepEd Order Number 49. On November 2, 2022, the DepEd Secretary Vice President Sara Duterte has signed the DepEd Order Number 49 implementation to ensure that the utmost professionalism is kept instilled between its personnel or educators and student and basic education curriculum. Let me start my presentation with the SOP or the statement of the problem. To extract necessary data, we ask important questions by creating statement of the problem. In SOP number 1, we asked about the social demographic profile of the respondents for both teachers and students. We asked their names, although this is optional, their age, sex, and lastly the student section. On the other hand, the teacher subject of teaching. In SOP number 2, we asked about the factors affecting the academic relationship of the students and teachers of Arellano University, Juan Sumulong Campus. Since we, the researchers, want to know the important variables that might imply the effective academic relationship between the students and teachers. Lastly, in SOP number 3, the respondents about the effects of DepEd Order Number 49 was asked on the academic relationship of grade 12 students and teachers of Arellano University, Juan Sumulong Campus. Moving forward to our methodology, we executed a quantitative technique that finds the statistics and graphs for our study in a descriptive research approach. Thus, the most appropriate sampling technique would be a quota sampling in the study, which depends on non-random selection of preset number. For this academic year, we included 50 participants, 40 grade 12 UM students and 10 grade 12 UM teachers at our University Juan Sumulong campus. They also use a survey questionnaire as a tool for data collection. Following the conceptual framework, it is composed of 3 elements. The first element is the main concept that talks about the debit order number 49, to assess the implication it has on the academic relationship of grade 12 UM students and teachers of our University Juan Sumulong campus. Followed by the second element, the key factors including the student-teacher relationship and student-teacher interaction. The third element will be the contributing factors, including the learning atmosphere which represents the intangible place where learning takes place and academic engagement which encompasses the willingness of both respondents to actively engage in learning activities. Lastly is the teaching and learning quality of the respondents. It refers to the results of utilization of the learning atmosphere and academic engagement to educate the students. Subsequently, the presentation of data was categorized into 2, namely the student's response and the teacher's response, which the responses from each set of questions provided by the researchers were interpreted by the following. In SOP number 2, the data resulted in students agreeing with a weighted mean of 3.71, implying that the student's relationship with teachers was significantly affected by these factors. As for the teachers, the interpretation was neutral with a weighted mean of 3.29, implying that these factors have little to no effect on teachers' relationship with their students. In SOP number 3, the data went to neutral with a weighted mean of 3.25, implying that the students' academic relationship with teachers has little to no effect on the teachers' academic relationship with their students. As for the teachers' overall data, the interpretation was neutral with a weighted mean of 3.3, implying that these factors have little to no effect on the teacher's academic relationship with students. Based on the collected data, the researchers have concluded that the implementation of debit order number 49 did not have a significant effect on the academic relationship between grade 12 UM students and teachers of our University Juan Sumulong campus. As a result, the following recommendations are hereby presented. Firstly, the researchers recommend conducting a case study on the teachers and students' interaction in a physical setup. Consequently, follow-up studies are recommended to track changes in teacher-student relationships over time to assess the effectiveness, consequences, and the long-term effects of debit order number 49. Secondly, a larger and more diverse sample size for further studies suggested that the future researchers can obtain a more precise and accurate estimated relationship between the variables under investigation, leading to more comprehensive insights. Finally, the researchers consider using mixed methods research designs to gain a more comprehensive understanding that will be essential for both qualitative and quantitative data collection and analysis methods. Once more, this is Christine Maru from Triumphal, your presentant for the study entitled The Effects of Debit Order number 49 on the Academic Relationship of Grade 12 UM Students and Teachers of our University Juan Sumulong campus. I would like to express my gratitude to the following people for their support, guidance, and nourishment from the beginning to the present. To Mr. Mark Angel S. Lugtu, my mentor and the research coordinator, my fellow researchers and group members, my parents, and the all-powerful God, most especially to the honorable panelists. Once again, thank you.
So, good day everyone. My name is Dirk Duncan Aiding Losa. I'm the leader of Group 1 from STEM 1A of Aureliano University, Elisa Esquerra campus. So, for today's agenda, we are going to introduce to you our own research, also known as Fact-to-One card game as a didactic mechanism of studying factoring perfect trinomial to the students of Aureliano University, Elisa Esquerra campus. So alongside me, my co-teammate Margaret Lucinesio, Dwayne De La Cruz, Kane Joel Acaba to discuss the research whole paper for you. So for our introduction, it is to be discussed by Margaret Lucinesio.
Greetings to our panel. I am Margaret Lee Lucinesio. Now, for the background of the study, for us to be able to function in a society, math is a crucial subject to study and a crucial skill to master. One of the hardest concepts to comprehend is math. As a result, educational games are used to help students to learn math. This study's objective is to use card to teach students how to factor trinomials. The researchers chose the topic because despite entering the senior high school, many students still struggle to factor perfect trinomials well. Perfect trinomial factoring is one of the most essential skills to learn because it connects to many areas of mathematics, particularly in precalculus, general mathematics, basic calculus, and etc. Therefore, we demonstrate that using a card as an alternative method of teaching perfect trinomial factoring is effective. This straightforward card game can give students the chance to develop their perfect trinomial factoring skill. Moreover, our study aims to help the students enjoy and learn about this perfect trinomial factoring while having a bond with their friends and help teachers to catch their students' interest in what they are teaching. That would be all for our background of the study. Now let's move forward to the statement of the problem. First problem is the card game's depiction of perfect trinomial factorings precise and reliable? Second, is the card game enjoyable for the students? Third, is Factor 1 easy to play and to comprehend? Okay, then the strength of our game is that it can be easily to understand, the cards are high quality, and the special ability of the cards. The weaknesses are that the longevity of the game, the number of cards. Yes, playing our game is kind of it takes time because it contains a lot of cards. Next, opportunities. Gathering interest through the concept of the game. Great impression of the game as there is low games involving factory. Based on our browsing, surfing while we're um, building this concept, we've found just a few games that involves factoring, which is good kasi parang ang unique ng game namin, ganon. Ang unique niya talaga. Next is that the threats. There are games that maybe depict better in factoring perfect trinomials. Second, the boredom of playing the card game, since it is an educational games, and we are all aware that educational games doesn't catch the interest of the students that much, especially if it's math. There are a lot of students na struggle sa math. When they heard the word math, they got bored and they're not interested with it. So that is a threat. Next is the cost of making the card. Like what I said earlier, we assure that the card's quality is really good. The appearance is really pleasing. That's why it costs the kind of pricing. That would be all. Thank you.
So our methodology, research method and research design, this section provides details on the tools used to produce the final result, the procedure and the management of the data utilized in the study. It includes the statistical procedures, information resources, study of subjects, and tools needed to gather and process data. The researchers use experimental research with purposive sampling method employed, and only associated random STEM students are chosen as participants. Only particular volunteers can contribute to the study's effectiveness. The researchers gather data through evaluation and questionnaires. The respondents will play the game, and when it's done, they will answer the questionnaires to see the effectiveness based on their response. So this is the pictures and of the product with labels as well. So first is factor card. It has the sub label and the factorial name and color indicator, which indicates if it's either orange, brown, green, and purple. So factor cards, this card consists of binomial that is used for factoring for the expression card. This card can be put down if it is a factor of the equation card, factor card with the same color, and if the factored card has the same sub-label with another factor card no matter what color it is. Next is expression card. As you can see, expression cards have same sub-label. Next is the expression card's name, as well as color indicator if it's either green, purple, brown, or orange. So equation cards, these cards is consist of trinomial equation that is needed to be factored by factor cards, or can be placed if the fundamental card is an equation card with the same color. It has different variety of colors ranging from orange, brown, violet, and green again. Next is blunder cards. So blunder cards are special cards with special abilities. Blunder cards have no color, so the player who uses this card will change the color, and the next player can put down either the factor card, expression card, or the blunder card. The only blunder card with special rule is random expression card, as it can be only put down alongside with an expression card as well. If none, it can't be used. So all blunder cards can be put down no matter what the circumstances is. So the blunder cards, as you can see, it has sub-label, the logo of the blunder card, and the name of the blunder card. Next is the back card. So the back card is the back of each card consisting of the logo. Next is the guidelines. Guidelines, this serve as the guide throughout the entire game. The pieces and the rules and regulations were also alongside it. For the result and discussion, it is to be further discussed by Mr. Dwayne De La Cruz.
Now let's proceed to result and discussion. The researchers use a pie graph presentation for the gathered data from 30 STEM student participants. First question, is the idea of factoring perfect trinomials accurately represented in the game? 30 out of 30 students agree, none disagree, and none is undecided, which means that 100% of the students agree that Facto1 is accurately depicting factoring perfect trinomials. Second question, does it draw attention to you to play it? Commonly, students are not comfortable when it comes to math topics, making it bored. But with the help of the researchers' creativity, making it a hard game, it makes it interesting and entertaining to play. When the students are asked, 30 out of 30 students agree, none of the students disagree, and none is undecided, which shows that 100% of the students agree that Facto1 draws their attention to play it. Third question, is Facto1 is a simple game to play? Most of the games involving math is not easily to comprehend. With the help of card games, the researchers made it easy to understand and comprehend and yet enjoyable. When the students are asked, 30 out of 30 students agree and none of the students disagree and none is undecided, which means that 100% of the students agree that Facto1 is easy to comprehend and play. Fourth question, does Facto1 improves focus? When the students are asked, 30 out of 30 students agree, none of the students disagree, and none of is undecided, which means that 100% of the students agree that Facto1 improve their focus and critical thinking skills. Fifth question, does Facto1, would you recommend this game in other section in STEM? When the students are asked, 30 out of 30 students agree, none of the students disagree, and none is undecided, which means that 100% of the students agree that they will recommend Facto1 in other section in STEM. Sixth question, does playing Facto1 helps you to understand more about perfect trinomial factoring? Facto1's major goal is to aid STEM students in recalling and learning perfect trinomial factoring. As factoring is closely related to most of the math courses, it is one of the benefits STEM students gain that aids in their improvement in other areas of mathematics. When the students are asked, 30 out of 30 students agree, none of the students disagree, and none is undecided, which means that 100% of the students agree that it helps them to better understand and more about trinomial factoring. Next is to be discussed by Mr. Kane Joel Lacaba, which is the abstract.
And for the abstract, perfect trinomial factoring is a foundational subject that is essential to understand because it applies to nearly every area of mathematics, such as basic calculus, pre-calculus, and general mathematics. The idea for creating a card game that illustrates the idea of factoring perfect trinomials emerged from the researchers' observation that many STEM students struggle with the task on how to factor trinomials. In this study, the researchers used a variety of methodology types. Surveys and evaluation forms are used to collect information necessary for these studies. The responses and satisfaction of the STEM students in the card game demonstrates good results, which only proves that the Facto1, the card game, is an effective teaching instrument for teaching on how to factor perfect trinomials. Lastly, the card game could help the STEM students to easily understand and comprehend factoring perfect trinomials. With the use of the card game, can gain new knowledge from it. And that's it. Again, this is came from Group 1 of STEMSOL 1A, and hope you understand our research. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day, everyone.
Good day. We thank you for taking the time to attend our defense. We hope that our study will enlighten, entertain, and prove worthy of acceptance.
We are the third group from STEM 12A of the batch 2022-2023, and our research is entitled, Are you bitter or is a coffee just better? Introducing Camara Coffee, Pure Mamortica Sharansha Ampalaya Seed-Based Coffee, Shalumay Coffee, Ampalaya Seed-Based Coffee with Capsicum Fruit Essence, Siling Labuyo, and Gala Coffee, Ampalaya Seed-Based Coffee with Citrus Microcarpa, Calamansi, the Pasay City residents.
The good thing is that, given the subjective preferences of its consumers, people found innovative ways to make their coffee delicious and unique. With this, we thought, why not make or use a different primary ingredient to make coffee with, instead of coffee beans, which cause the sad downsides. Therein enters Ampalaya, which we found could be utilized in such a way that it could function as a coffee beverage. According to Thakur and Sharma, Ampalaya is good at preventing diabetes, ulcer, mutation, cancer, tumor, fat formation, pain, virus infection, blood sugar increase, and it could also moderate our immune system. These are all due to the chemical properties of the plant. Given these, we thought Ampalaya ought to make for a healthier coffee. And if Ampalaya seeds are found to be very good at being an alternative to coffee beans, then this will be very beneficial to coffee enjoyers.
The overall goal of this project was to enhance Ampalaya seed-based coffee by incorporating organic materials such as calamansi and siling labuyo, which ISON's previous study was failed to investigate. The researchers' approach to this was going to be an experimental approach. So the second objective was to provide convenient sampling as a means of introducing Ampalaya seed-based coffee to Pasay City residents.
To determine whether Camara, Chalumay, and Kala were generally accepted. As researchers, we use experimental and quantitative methods and focus on enhancing Ampalaya coffee.
The materials that were used for this research are the following.
For the experimental setup, the researchers based on the golden ratio of the Specialty of Coffee Association of America in measuring the ingredients used in making Camara, Salumay, and Kala coffee. In making Camara coffee, the researchers used 55 grams of Ampalaya powdered seeds and 4 cups of hot water. In making Salumay coffee, the researchers used a classic brew and a 2.5 grams of roasted siling labuyo seeds. Meanwhile, 60 grams of calamansi extract were added to a pure Ampalaya coffee to make Kala.
The researchers first bought the Ampalaya seeds, calamansi, and siling labuyo. They went to KSHC Seeds Trading and asked the local wet vendors at San Andres Street for Ampalaya seed waste, then purchased 1/4 kilo of siling labuyo and 1/2 kilo of calamansi. The wet Ampalaya seeds and siling labuyo were dried under the sun for a few days. After drying them, the researchers roasted them in an oven toaster until they turned brown to dark in color. The researchers set 5, 10, and 15-minute roasting depending on the wetness of the Ampalaya seeds. The roasted seeds were then ground into fine particles using a blender. For the siling labuyo, the researchers only used the seeds of it. Then it was ground into powder form and extracted the juice from the calamansi. The coffee was brewed in the coffee maker. For each cup of coffee, 5 grams of calamansi extract was mixed and stirred. 2.5 grams measuring spoon of siling labuyo ground seeds was dipped in the brewed coffee using a coffee filter paper for 5 minutes. Then the researchers proceeded in storing each samples in its respective thermos, and the acidity test of the 3 samples was performed. And finally, the evaluation occurred when the researchers presented the 3 samples to the Pasay City.
Through the conduction of the methodology and the usage of related literature and studies, all alternative hypotheses were accepted. First, adding siling labuyo and calamansi will improve the taste of Ampalaya seed-based coffee. According to the interpretation scale, the coffee samples with additives had a lower bitterness quality compared to a pure Ampalaya coffee. However, the data showed that these two brews were generally more popular among the Pasay City residents. It appears that the slight decrease in bitterness actually improved the overall taste of the coffee for the respondents. This suggests that While some people may prefer a strong, bitter flavor in their coffee, a less bitter taste may be more appealing to a wider audience. Overall, these findings suggest that adding certain additives to coffee can potentially enhance its flavor and make it more enjoyable for a larger group of people. Second, the classic Ampalaya seed-based coffee, the Camara, will get a good feedback on its main properties, including the aroma, color, taste, and texture. The pure brewed Ampalaya coffee received high scores in most of its properties, with the exception of its color. Despite these, the respondents generally had a positive response to the coffee and only a few modifications would be needed to improve it.
Hypothesis of the study: Salumay and Kala will be generally accepted as a new forms of coffee. The results of the study suggest that the two beverages were deemed agreeable by the respondents, having been slightly like and moderately like. The fourth hypothesis: Camara coffee will be slightly like as a coffee on its own. The data gathered and analyzed agrees with the hypothesis, Camara coffee being slightly like and had a mean rating of 5.66.
Acceptance of the fifth hypothesis. The pH level is a measure of how acidic or basic a substance is. It has its own pH that shows the color scheme guide of being acidic or not. As we only had litmus paper, we were only able to refer to an estimated based on the color gradient. It's concluded that the pH levels of each coffee were nearly neutral.
Lastly, recommendation. Number 1, better equipment and materials. Number 2, a higher ratio of coffee powder to water combination. A higher ratio of coffee powder to water combination would make the coffee more concentrated. Less diluted coffee would make a stronger flavor, possibly without fearing an acidic beverage due to an Ampalaya seed's chemical properties that is naturally anti-acidic. Additionally, it would bring a darker shade and different body to the coffee. Number 3, finding other measurements of concentration for the additives. Number 4, use of other additives. Use of other additives that conform the main goal of making a healthier beverage may show better results with detailed notifications and trials.
Number 6. Study the chemical and microproperties of Ampalaya seeds to gain a better understanding of the processes involved in incorporating them as a stimulant beverage. Number 7. Study the nutritive values of each of the brew styles. Number 8. After numerous trials have been conducted and the preceding recommendations that could produce better results have been successfully explored, encompassing essential data and required processes that would sanction holistically acceptable Ampalaya coffee, the researchers recommend that the product be advertised.
To add, for our 9th suggested action plan, small families may use Ampalaya coffee as a first step to develop a microbusiness that could help them inside the economy. This will cause a paradigm shift in the exportation of the pertinent fresh produce the primary ingredients come from. Furthermore, medical and educational institutions as well as other organizations with a similar level of influence and renown may support the beverage in incorporating it into the system services and features they offer after being presented with a formal proposal by the appropriate figures or their own initiative when further studies are wholly successful.
Number 11. Look for different organic seeds to create a coffee with. And number 12. Incorporate Ampalaya seeds to a different form of beverage.
To all the students, teachers, and researchers, good day to all of you. I am Lara Katrina Rodriguez, and my pronouns are she and her.
Hi, I am Darrell James Arshon, a part of the LGBTQIA+, and I am proud and confident to use my pronouns he, him.
Hi, my name is Adrian Piranota, and my pronouns are he and him.
Hi, my name is Olivia Samantha Di Fernando, and I'm proud to use my pronoun she and her.
Hi, I'm Diane Micaela Arbadillon, and my pronouns are she and her.
I am Felicity Villalobos, a proud member of LGBTQIA+, and I am confident to use the pronouns she and her.
I am Charity Luis Tusan. I am a part of the LGBTQIA+ community, and I am proud to use the pronouns they, them.
We, the researchers from Arellano University, Apolinario Mabini Campus, proudly present
a qualitative research titled Appropriate Education for Using Precise Pronouns as a Practice for Recognizing Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity and Expression to Promote Inclusivity Among Senior High School Students of Arellano University Apolinario Mabini Campus.
This study focused on the appropriate education for using precise pronouns as a good practice for recognizing sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression to promote inclusivity among senior high school students of Arellano University Apolinario Mabini Campus. It seeks to open the minds of many by educating them about the different SOGI and pronouns in this 21st century. The researchers aim to assess the impact of this practice on society and language in that it is timely and relevant to every learner. The overall point of this study is to understand the experiences of people with different SOGI and how appropriate education of using precise pronouns will be a way to create an inclusive environment for everyone to freely express themselves.
This part provides a history of this topic, specifically on the origin of its rise to society's issues and how this has affected a lot of aspects over time. More so, this tackles the importance of gender affirmation, or totality is the recognition of people with different SOGI as stigma, hate, misgendering, discrimination, gender dysphoria, and many more continue to take a toll on the progress of achieving equality and inclusivity.
These formulated questions were based on the aim of the researchers to get an idea upon trying to understand the experience of everyone who have different SOGI and how those experiences have shaped them into having a standpoint about the proper education of using precise pronouns and recognizing them.
This provides the objective and/or purpose of researchers for conducting the research.
This tells the instrument used by the researchers to conduct their research based on the statement of the problem.
This gives an idea on how the process of getting the respondents were made.
This tackles the specific set of participants who shall contribute on the conclusion and result of the study.
This discusses the overall methods in conducting the research in terms of getting the respondent and how they will be interviewed using the SODP.
Based on the gathered responses, there are majority and minority from the respondents who felt comfortable in being recognized according to their pronouns, while others feel offended when they are being misgendered. To put it simply, this revolves to their opinions, perspective, standpoints, and experiences.
The respondents came from different strands with a total of 19 respondents. The researchers used a qualitative method and administered an interview with the respondents. The main goal of this study is to prove that appropriate education for using precise pronouns is a good practice for recognizing sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression to promote inclusivity among senior high school students of Arellano University Apolinario Mabini Campus. Based on the process, these put an exact short information about the methodology used for the study.
As for the conclusion and recommendation of this study, it outlined the set of responses such as what are the majority answers, who are they, as well as the minority part.
As for the majority of the respondents, it tells that education is an important tool for breaking stigma, stereotypes, misconceptions, and discrimination arising within the society, which gives justice to the point of the study.
Meanwhile, there is another majority of the respondents who agree that the correct use of pronouns shows unity in acknowledging a person's existence, regardless of SOGI, thus promoting inclusivity in this 21st century.
As researchers, upon concluding, we recommended that utilizing information and knowledge are contributing factors for the responsibility that everyone must have in terms of basic human decency, which is acknowledging the preference of people with different SOGI.
Lastly, we also recommend that people who promote diversity, equality, and accessibility to human rights in order to contribute to a more inclusive environment are a must.
On behalf of the whole research department from Senior High School, Arellano University, Andres Bonifacio Campus, I would like to greet everyone a good day. Today we are going to present our research paper entitled Schematic Activation of Reading Comprehension Across Text Types by Grade 11 STEM students, together with my fellow research teachers, Lara Selina M. Digman, Mary Joyce C. Manlapas, and Danica E. Season. This is Eduardo L. Martinez Jr. Prior knowledge leverage on schema activation has a powerful influence on memory, because knowledge is organized in long-term memory and opens in new windows as webs or networks of related informations. Reading comprehension, on the other hand, is the ability to read text, process, and understand its meaning. This study aims to determine which area of reading across text types by grade 11 STEM students of Aureliano University Andres Bonifacio Campus, school year 2021-2022 needed attention. This research is anchored to the schema theory. According to Hummelhart in 1980, schema theory is the explanation on how a reader uses prior knowledge to comprehend and learn from different types of text. A written text does not carry meaning by itself, and it can only provide direction for learners as to how they should retrieve or construct meaning from their own previously acquired knowledge. According to Su Ying in 2013, schema guides the students from sensory thinking to imaginative thinking, which encourage them to be active on the process of reading, guessing, and interpreting the text. From schema theory, reading across the curriculum was conceptualized and then introduced to help learners to build on their fluency and comprehension. There are two types of reading across the curriculum. First is the content area reading, and second is the disciplinary reading. Under content area reading, text is focused on problem solving, news articles, and research abstract, while disciplinary reading focuses on narrative, poetic, and non-fiction text. On this study, the researchers would like to shed light on the following questions. First, what is the student's schematic activation of reading comprehension across text types based on the result of the pre-test and post-test? Second, will there be a significant difference on the comparison of students' pre-test against post-test results? Third, if there will be, what can justify the existence of significant difference from the pre-test with the post-test result? The researchers utilize quasi-experimental research under quantitative research design. In this type of research design, pre-test, intervention, and post-test are needed to find out if there's a significant difference on the schematic activation of students before and after the reading intervention. The subject of this study are all the grade 11 STEM students from Aureliano University Andres Bonifacio campus. As we can see on the figure, the researchers started by administering the pretest before continuing on the reading intervention, and lastly, the administration of the posttest. This study uses standard deviation and mean to properly describe the retrieved data, and used t-test to find out if there is a significant difference between pre-test and post-test after the intervention. Let us now proceed to the resultant discussion for this study. After analyzing the data retrieved by the researchers, it is important to point out the following. Table 1 states that most of the STEM students excel in narrative text during pre-test, having a mean of 8.32, and results excel in problem solving from both tests, having a mean of 5.96 from the pre-test and 8.05 from the post-test. Based on the data, the students have problem in comprehending text such as new articles, narrative text, and nonfiction. It was also stated that from the test, both results have standard deviation of 1.92, having a homogeneous result. For Table 2, it is important to point out the significant difference on the mean score for three different text types such as problem solving, procedural text, and poetry. Given the data and the results, the researchers came up with the following conclusion. First, the prior knowledge or the scheme of the students and the knowledge acquired through reading across text types are evident on the following text: problem solving, news article, procedural text, narrative text, and poetry. Second, the prior knowledge or the scheme of the students and the knowledge acquired through reading across text types are not evident on the following text: research abstract, and nonfiction. Third, the administered reading intervention top the creative scheme of the reader that causes the students to give the expected outcome. Given the following results, the researchers recommend the following. To the English teacher, the educator must integrate real-life experiences as an example in discussing lessons so the students will have their own sense of reality and comprehension will be easier. To the students, initiative from the learner goes a long way in seeing the significance of reading and comprehension as they prepare for their professional career. For this study, the researchers would like to extend their gratitude to Dr. Ferdinand C. Lakwata, University Research Director, for cropping and conceptualizing this research.
Air pollution can have a wide range of negative effects on people's health and well-being, making it a significant public health concern. So how will the researchers make sure that the air we breathe is clean? A pleasant day to everyone. This is Carmelot, and together with my co-researcher, Ms. Luisa, we will be presenting our study entitled Now Air, Air Quality Monitoring System. Be safe anywhere with Now Air. It is an application that measures and monitors real-time air quality.
Let us now proceed to the introduction. According to the World Health Organization, 90% of the population breathes polluted air and cause of death for 7 million people every year. The quality of the air in the Philippines is becoming worse, and the citizens who use public transportations are highly exposed to the harmful effects of air pollution.
Also, the researchers experienced that there are several contaminated areas around Arellano University Glendale campus, including vehicles passing by, the river nearby, and so on. Based on that experience, the researchers created a device which can monitor and provide trustworthy data regarding the quality of an air within a particular area.
The researchers' objectives are to monitor real-time air quality levels using an application that will provide reliable data to individuals in different contaminated locations. This can be used for developing strategies to improve the air quality in a specific area. Therefore, the hypothesis is the researchers can provide a prototype that can monitor and measure air pollutants, air humidity, and temperature to lessen the respiratory illnesses.
Here are some related literature. According to JO 2020, each year the state of the atmosphere gets worse due to the expansion of civilization and the rise of polluting emission from businesses and vehicles. This dangerous substance is invisible to the naked eye, making it difficult for people to detect polluted air.
According to Rawal in 2019, measuring air quality is an important step in raising awareness among the public about the need to ensure the health of future generations. The first step in this problem is recognizing that it actually exists and it's possible to avoid polluted areas and take necessary precautions.
Also, according to Guada 2021, an IoT system that could be installed anywhere analyze pollution, store and measure values in cloud database, and display the level of pollution at any given location.
Based on the theory of Porcariadsa 2021, this proposed prototype is a survey on a cloud platform that stores data and processes the information collected by the Air Quality Monitoring System, or also known as AQMS. The prototype will help people monitor and measure real-time air quality levels, which are uploaded to the design web survey on their mobile phones using an application allowing them to make informed decisions to reduce exposure to harmful pollutants.
Within this, the researchers use an internet source, specifically ESP8266 and sensor DHT11 and MQ135. These sensors detect temperature and humidity and air quality respectively. These devices are attached to the breadboard and linked together with jumper wires. After being put together, the Wi-Fi module is connected to a computer using a USB cable and then programmed.
Let's move on to the methods. The researchers use experimental research design in the study, which examines the effect of the independent variable and dependent variable. Also, the researchers choose convenient samplings because it is easy and much faster way in collecting data through a group of people that is conveniently available in terms of distance and connections, where the researchers choose 30 knowledgeable and capable STEM students from AUPC.
The survey was conducted at AUPC. The researchers used Google Forms to collect data. For the questionnaires, the researchers used Likert scale, an open-ended question that determines how much the respondents agree or disagree with each statement. Then sent copies of the survey to 30 respondents and then a short video explaining how the AKMS works through Messenger.
According to the data collected, AQMS is effective in monitoring and measuring air quality. Furthermore, the researchers find that prototype is acceptable in terms of the sensor, data gathering, and its own application. Also, how it changed the view and perspective of people in power consumption, expenses, and efficiency.
To conclude, the researchers can provide a prototype that can monitor and measure air pollutants, air humidity, and temperature to lessen respiratory illnesses. This study will serve as a reliable source of data for them to use as a guide to complete their research if it is related to this research study. The researchers suggest that the application can provide an account that shows the history of previous data and daily report features.
Thank you for listening in our presentation, and we hope you find it informative and engaging. Bye!
A pleasant day, everyone. We are the students from Arellano University, Jose Abad Santos Campus. We are going to present our research study entitled Waste Leafy Vegetables as Alternative Source of Electrolytes for Batteries. I am Noel Victoriano, together with my members, Bala Lumi, Vasco Christian, Domingo Diniz, Eusebio Andre, Ilano Eunice, Liwanag Mark, Oretea Mark, Romero Ken, and Samarita Mary Joy, guided by our research advisor, Ms. Eliza Martel Villamel. The outline of our presentation consists of documentation, result and discussion, conclusion, and the recommendations.
Now let's discuss the documentation of our study. First is the gathering of raw materials in wet markets. Second is rinsing of raw materials to clean and separate foreign debris and dirt. Third, weighing of raw materials to estimate how many grams of extracted electrolytes are in a kilo of waste leafy vegetables. Fourth is the blending of 2 kg of waste leafy vegetables and pouring 50 ml each 5 cups of water. Fifth is the extraction of electrolytes from the raw material using cheese clods. Sixth is the 2 liters of solution fine fermented for 3 months.
Next is the opening of solution after 3 months of fermentation. Next is the case making of wooden box storage with the measurements of 1.2 meter, 20 centimeter, and 32 centimeter. Next is the material testing using voltmeter if the materials are working and in a fine condition. The picture shows the cleansing of the bottles and sterilizing to remove unwanted bacteria and foreign debris. Next, the cutting of the bottles for the iron and graphites. Then wire of rods using stranded wire for cleaning.
Arranging the final setup to see the possibilities of finding a more appropriate design to fit in the box case is showcased in this first picture. The next picture is the eye level of the measured solution which are poured in each of the 12 container bottles. Next is the solution testing to know if there is a flow of current in the solution. Then, the preceding image shows the testing of the battery without the solution to know if there is still charge inside of it. The battery needs to be low charge or almost dead battery. Next are the testing of the product to the 3 watt and 5 watt light bulbs.
The next slide revealed our video experimentation. The result and discussion will be discussed by Ms. Bala, Mr. Victoriano, Mr. Liwanag, Mr. Eusebio, and myself, Ms. Ilano.
In this table, as you can see, it has three columns. The first column is the number of connected container, the second one is the LED light bulb lead, and lastly, the voltage. This table represents the data regarding the different light bulbs lit by a varying number of connected electrolytes containers as well as the voltage of each. There are 5 categories of bulbs: 3 watts, 5 watts, 7 watts, 10 watts, and a combination of 3 and 5 watts light bulb.
The table is divided into 3 columns. First column is the container, then volume and voltage. This table represents the data of the volume of waste leafy vegetables extract contained by each container in terms of ml and the respective voltage. The containers are numbered 1 to 12 accordingly.
Results and discussion. The following findings were revealed in the span of conducting the study. The concentration of fermented vegetable waste is considered. The researchers found that there is a relationship between concentration and voltage production. It takes 2 months to ferment waste-leafy vegetables and produce approximately 1.8 volts per container with a total volume of 100 ml, using graphite and iron as electrodes. Another parameter to consider is the type of wire to use. The researchers conducted a test to find out which was the best to use. According to their findings, stranded wire size 14 can hold the highest voltage produced with the fermented waste-leafy vegetables, followed by size 8. It is therefore concluded that size 14 is the best to use upon choosing the combination of electrodes, finding the best wire to be used, and fermenting the waste-leafy vegetable for 2 months. The researchers were able to light up a 3 and 5 watts 12-volt DC bulb. In addition, charging through the battery is possible, but there is a limitation. It can only charge for 65 hours and 18 minutes and then it stops. On the other hand, the lamp can operate continuously for 15 hours to 30 minutes if the 2 bulbs are open together before it fully discharges. In addition, charging through the battery is possible, but there is a limitation. It can only charge for 65 hours and 18 minutes and then it stops. On the other hand, the lamp can operate continuously for 15 hours and 30 minutes if the 2 bulbs are open together before it fully discharges. Aside from that, this shows that a reasonable amount of waste-leafy vegetable can produce voltage huge enough to be harnessed for practical use, particularly for LED light bulbs. Also, this study proven that this would be beneficial to the community in present and future.
Conclusion. Utilization of waste-leafy vegetables as the primary ingredient in the development of an alternative source of electrolytes for batteries. Recycling these materials will contribute toward reducing waste that could potentially add to the current environmental problems. An electrolyte produced from waste-leafy vegetables shows significant characteristics comparable to the conventional battery. Based on these observations, the following conclusions are drawn. 1. The researchers conducted that waste-leafy vegetables can produce voltage that could be harnessed for usage. 2. The researchers concluded that the circuit incorporated with the waste-leafy vegetables as electrolytes bubbled up, visibly showing the chemical reaction between the electrodes and the electrolytes. 3. Lastly, the researchers concluded, with the aid of the European results, that the device is capable of powering loads such as a light bulb, which requires at least 12 volts to light up, showing that waste-leafy vegetables is a potent source of electrolytes for batteries.
Recommendations. Based on the findings and conclusions of the study, the researchers synthesized and handled with the following recommendations. First is to increase the power output and, if ever possible, the current as well, which could be achieved by increasing the container size, thereby increasing the volume of the electrolytic solution. Enlarging and using combinations of electrodes or introducing additional containers. It could then be inferred that by further increasing the number of containers, thereby increasing the volume of the solution. The practical application of this study could extend up to devices and appliances that requires a higher voltage. For the second recommendation is to lengthen the charging period and increase the capacity of the utilized capacitor, therefore increasing the reliability of the device. Extending the charging period of the battery may prolong its capacity. The third recommendation, or last, is the enhancements by addition of aiding agents such as salt that increases the voltage and electric conductivity, and by increasing the acidity further by allowing more time for fermentation or by mixing additional acidic substances. And that's all for our presentation entitled as Waste Leafy Vegetable as an Alternative Source of Electrolytes for Battery. The floor is now open for questions, suggestions, and recommendations.
Good day everyone and welcome to my presentation. First and foremost, I would like to thank everyone who attended this research colloquium. I am Joel Z. Balad, grade 12 UM students at Arellano University Andres Bonifacio campus. This research study is about the implementation of ROTC, a quantitative study about the readiness of senior high school students at Arellano University, Pasig. Abstract. The researchers conducted a study about the implementation of ROTC, a quantitative study about the readiness of senior high school students in Arellano University, Pasig. The research aims to see if there is a significant relationship between readiness and the profile of senior high school students at Arellano University. The respondents of the study were senior high school students with different strands and grade level. The study used the descriptive method of research utilizing research-based questionnaires as the main instrument to gather data. The study revealed that the senior high school students at Arellano University Pasig are not physically ready for the prospective implementation of ROTC, while mentally, the results shows that the students of Arellano University are mentally ready for the prospective implementation of ROTC. The study tested the null hypothesis that states that there is no significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the readiness of the senior high school students in terms of physical and mental. Introduction. The National Service Training Program is an educational system with three main components: civic welfare training, literacy training service, and the Reserves Officer Training Corps. Hence, according to Mastajo 2018, ROTC is a civic education and defense preparedness program for all Filipino college students, providing military education and training to mobilize them for national defense readiness and prepare them for service in the armed forces of the Philippines. According to Jipoyo, in 1992, the Reserve Officer Training Corps was established and became a subject at the University of the Philippines. The ROTC program was made mandatory for all colleges and universities in 1935. However, due to the death of a cadet from the University of Santo Tomas in 2002, it was completely abolished. According to Ranada, 2019, President Rodrigo Duterte signed legislation resurrecting the ROTC, granting mandatory program grades 11 to 12, but the former residence is unique due to the corruption. This study aims to seek and provide answer about how ready senior high school students are for the implementation of ROTC. The researchers believe that the result of this study will have a significant contribution to society, considering that senior high school students are the prospective participants of the ROTC if ever it will be widely implemented and mandated by the government. Theoretical framework. Edward Thorndike's Law of Readiness also emphasized that learning takes into account the learner's readiness in order to be more lasting and effective, according to Magazine 2009 and Sharma 2006. Emphasized that readiness included all preparatory adjustments that occurred immediately before the activity, the learner's of his previous experiences, mental preparation for understanding new things, diverting his attention to the subject to be learned, and changing the environment to suit the learning are all a part of the readiness. Thorndike's Law of Readiness is related to the implementation of ROTC. Students who are not ready to participate in ROTC are not interested in learning military leadership, disaster response, survival skills. By determining the respondents' readiness, the researchers can determine whether the target respondents would be qualified in terms of physical and mental aspects, utilizing Thorndike's theory of readiness. Conceptual framework. The conceptual framework shows how the researchers gather data from the respondents. In the input, it includes the statement of the problem that shows all of the main problems of the research we are conducting. In the process, it shows how the researchers provide questionnaires to the respondents to collect data. Lastly, on the output side, the researchers will know the readiness of the senior high school students at Arellano University, Pasig. Statement of general problem. Generally, the researchers aim to determine the readiness of the senior high school students on the implementation of ROTC. Statement of specific problems. Specifically, this research sought to answer the following questions. Number 1. What is the profile of the respondents in terms of grade level, strand, and gender? How may the readiness of the respondents be interpreted in terms of physical and mental? Is there a significant relationship between readiness and the profile of respondents at Arellano University with respect to the grade level, strand, and gender? Null hypothesis. The study tested the null hypothesis that states that there is no significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the readiness of senior high school students in terms of physical and mental. Definition of key terms. Theoretically and practically, the following key concepts are defined. Implementation. This refers to an act or instance of implementing something, the process of making something active or effective. Grievance. This refers to a cause of distress such as an unsatisfactory working condition, felt to afford reason for complaint or resistance. Readiness. This refers to the quality or state of being ready, such as a state of preparation. Mandate. This refers to an authoritative command, especially a formal order from a superior court or official to an inferior one. Legislative. This refers to the branch of government that is charged with such powers as making laws, levying and collecting taxes, and making financial appropriations. Methodology. Research design and method. The research design used in the study was a descriptive research design. A descriptive design was appropriate to use in this study since it involves the use of collecting data and receiving shreds of evidence. Further, the descriptive method analyzes events in a natural environment and to determine causal relationship between variables. According to Siedlecki 2020, the purpose of descriptive studies is to describe individuals, events, or conditions by studying them as they are in nature. In addition, the researchers found it appropriate to utilize this research design, for it utilizes content analysis wherein the researchers will not manipulate any of the variables but rather than only describe the sample and the variables. Participants. This study involved grade 11 and grade 12 students coming from the 9 strands of AU Bonifacio campus for the SY 2022 and 2023. Research tool. Construction of the test items. The researchers crafted a survey which consists of the profile of the respondents in terms of grade level, strand, and gender, and a questionnaire checklist which comprised of 2 categorical values, physical and mental, which consists of 5 questions, each variable. Validation of test items. These test items underwent validation by the research advisor and experts in the field of English and research subject. Administration of test items. 100 copies of questionnaire checklists were administered to the senior high school students during the first semester of academic year to 2022 to 2023. Data gathering procedure. The researchers sought permission from the office of the senior high school principal for the administration of the questionnaire checklist across all strands in the senior high school. The data were gathered were then tallied and treated with appropriate statistical treatment. Statistical data analysis. To statistically compute the data for SOP1, the frequency and percentage distribution were computed while mean was run to compute the data for SOP2. Thus, chi-square was used to compute the data for SOP3. Result and discussion. General finding and discussion as shown in the theoretical framework, it emphasizes that learning takes into one's account of the learner's readiness in order to be more lasting and effective. This connotes that for learning to be effective, one needs to possess interest and signs of readiness. Thus, when one is ready, they learn more effectively and with greater satisfaction than when not ready. Moreover, based on the results of data shown below, it reveals that in terms of physical aspect, the senior high school students are not ready for the implementation of ROTC, considering that ROTC requires being physically fit and high-pay endurance. However, it also reveals that their profile as a senior high school students do not play a significant role in their readiness for ROTC, and that everyone can be ready to the implementation of the said program if they only would be holistically ready, both physical and mental. Table 1. Profile of the respondents in terms of grade level, strand, and gender. Respondents were mostly from grade 12 with 78% and 22% from grade 11. Grade 12 respondents are the most interested in the study as they are about to enter college and NSTP is already part of the curriculum. The majority of respondents came from the UM strand with 23%. The minority of respondents came from tour guiding with 3%. Humans and social sciences are two separate fields of study, encompassing philosophy, history, literature, religion, music, and human condition. UM students are more likely to explore the advantages and disadvantages of social sciences, which include criminology, gerontology, law, political science, psychology, and human development. 46% of respondents are female, 45% are male, and 9% are LGBTQIA. According to O'Neill, 2021, according to Glendon, discussed the rise in female involvement in Army ROTC, particularly in the military. At Notre Dame, Senior Stephanie Zaccone emphasizes that being a leader does not require being loud, masculine, and mud-crawling leader. As the services are always seeking good leaders, women are interested in ROTC, showing that it does not hinder gender interest. Table 2. Computed weighted mean of the readiness of the senior high school in terms of physical and mental. The verbal interpretation of senior high school students in Arellano University Pasig in terms of physical readiness is neutral. This connotes that the respondents are neither ready nor not about the implementation of ROTC. The verbal interpretation of senior high school students in Arellano University Pasig in terms of mental readiness is agreed. The majority of respondents are ready to participate in ROTC program mentally, as determined by the questionnaire statements. Table 3. Chi-square test of independence between the profile of respondents and the physical and mental readiness of the senior high school students on the implementation of ROTC. According to Table 3, there is no significant relationship between readiness and the profile of senior high school students at Arellano University Pasig. This shows that any grade level, strand, and gender can be ready for ROTC regardless of the demographic profile of the respondents. General conclusion. Based on the data gathered, it was proven that female respondents are more interested in the implementation of ROTC. Thus, among the two aspects, it was revealed that most of the respondents were mentally ready on the implementation of ROTC. This concludes that they were not physically ready to undergo training, given that ROTC requires physical fitness tests. Moreover, it was also proven that there is no relation between the profile of respondents and the readiness to the ROTC. This connotes that regardless of the gender, grade level, and strand, everyone should be ready on the implementation of ROTC, considering that the program aims to promote culture of discipline and responsibility, provides opportunity to inculcate the values of patriotism, nationalism, and character building, provides training that will help students to develop leadership skills. Recommendation and utilization. The respondents, regardless of their gender, should engage the seminars and activities that may help them be aware of the implementation of ROTC. Moreover, they should practice doing physical fitness activities and routines that are necessary for the training. They may read books or watch videos from the internet that may guide them in doing these activities. In addition, the institution shall hold seminars regarding ROTC or have a program that will require students to have at least 3 basic physical fitness activities that they may perform daily. Moreover, regardless of their grade level, strand, and gender, they will have adequate knowledge about the implementation of ROTC. Hence, this will encourage students to be ready. That is all my presentation about. Thank you so much for listening and investing your time and attention.
You probably wonder, even just once in your life, how health website technology will be useful nowadays. Well, that, according to Raghavan et al. 2021, they predicted by 2050, the escalating population would increase the demand for healthcare facilities. With this significant growth in the population, telehealth could become a viable solution for these problems in the future. A pleasant morning to everyone, especially to our dear panelists. I am the leader, Anizali Martinez. Together with my co-researchers, we are here to present our research entitled Development of Online Reservation System for Medical Clinic for Senior High School of Arellano University, Jose Rizal Campus. Without further ado, let's proceed. Background of the study. For the background of our study, according to an article by Yumait and Gazali 2022, there are now a growing number of patients. It is indispensable to implement a systematic appointment booking process to offer patients correct and prompt medical care. The traditional method of scheduling appointment is laborious and time-consuming for patients, since it requires them to travel in person to the clinic to do it, which ultimately increases both expense and effort. Because of this technology will also aid with the schedule to prevent crowding within the clinic by limiting the number of patients sit on any given day. In addition to that, the website will provide patients with advice and direction on their health awareness at various points throughout the site.
In scope and delimitation, our scope refers to the extent of our study, which is the online reservation system for the medical clinic. We, the researchers, have defined the limits of our study through various online survey questionnaires. And regarding to our response of it, we have 25 ICT students and 5 ICT teachers. As for our delimitation, it refers to the boundaries over our study that will not be extended. We, the researchers, have identified the limits of our system and the actions that will take when we reach those limits. This will help us to stay focused on our research goals and avoid getting sidetracked.
Methodology. Research paradigm. The figure above represents the knowledge and software requirements required to develop the system, followed by the process, which includes what is used for design and testing, and the output is the developed system software. Project design. Our project design gives us a two-user access system. This is first is a student. This shows us that the student is able to create an observation form in a product option. Secondly, is the client staff. The client staff can manage what the system shows you in the project design, which is reservation form, upload a photo, manage clinic inventory, records, and appointments.
To continue our methodology, we have research instrument. We use online survey questionnaires to gather information. The questionnaires used in this study was patterned from the ISO 25010 software quality standards to interpret the answers of the respondents. We use Likert scale. Research method. We use a quantitative method that focuses on quantifying the collection and analysis of data. Research design. We use purposive sampling to select samples from the overall sample based on the judgment of the survey respondent. Statistical treatment data. We use weighted mean to calculate the average value of the data.
Results and discussion. The online reservation for medical clinic system. The proposed system aims to minimize waiting times, prioritize reservations, and reduce the operation costs, while it is enhancing the service quality. Also, it is an online paperless application designed for the students to book their reservation within the scheduled appointment slots according to their preferences, with high flexibility and ease of use. And we have the homepage reservation form page, clinic staff login page, and clinical staff dashboard.
Project capabilities and limitations. The following are capabilities of the project. 1. Students can fill out the digital platform. 2. Capability for the school clinic staffs to manage and control the fill-out forms and dashboard features. 3. Clinic staffs can easily identify the needs and stocks of their data. The following are limitations of the project. 1. Students who will fill out the form can be edited. 2. The system logins only for the clinic staffs. 3. It can be only accessed with cell phones, laptops, or desktop.
As for the conclusion, the researchers conclude that online reservation system for medical clinics it can facilitate the accomplishment of specified tasks. An objective also it ensures that it can facilitate maintaining high accessibility.
Recommendations. The study about the online medical reservation system made this for students. It will guarantee them that they will receive their medical check-up at the time and day they have planned. Also for clinic staffs, because it will help them gather, compile, analyze the data, manage inventory, appointment of records. It will recommend this also to teachers and parents by this reservation system to request an information about their children. And for the last, this study also recommends for future researchers, we use this to make clear, specific, and realistic suggestions to future researchers before they conduct a similar experiment.
Is it any wonder why 1 in 4 students suffers with mental health issues in silence? Good day. I am J. Lowell Albano, under the advisory of Practical Research Coordinator, Mr. Mark Angel Luktu. This presentation aims to discuss the effectiveness of a mental well-being assistant or MWA website in promoting the mental health and overall well-being of students from Arellano University, Juan Sumulong campus. Mental health has become a pressing issue for students due to academic stress and numerous stressors. Krasner et al. 2018 discovered 1 in 4 students struggle with mental health problems, affecting their academic performance and overall well-being. As a solution, web-based tools for psychological assistance have emerged to provide personalized guidance and resources. However, their effectiveness has been debated. This study focuses on comparing the impact of a mental well-being assistant website intervention to a control group on mood and overall mental health measurements to develop effective strategies for promoting mental health among AUJSC students. The statement of the problem centers around investigating the effectiveness of the mental well-being assistant web tool in improving the mood and overall mental health of students. Our research specifically aims to understand the benefits of using the MOA website in terms of mental awareness, personal lifestyle, well-being, and emotional state. The significant effects of MOA website in dealing with social anxiety, repressed anger, academic home challenges, and the user-friendliness of MOA website in terms of accessibility, data privacy and integrity, functionality, and usability. Our conceptual framework is based on variables that affect the overall mental health and mood of students, as well as the role of the MOA website in aiding them. These variables include well-being, personal lifestyle, mental awareness, emotional state, social anxiety, repressed anger, academic challenges and home challenges, accessibility, privacy and integrity, functionality, and usability. To carry out this study, the researchers used experimental design and a survey questionnaire using closed-ended questions. Descriptive statistics such as frequency, percentage, weighted mean, rank, and t-test were used in analyzing the gathered data. The study employed a double-stage cluster sampling technique with a sample of 50 participants. Table 1 illustrates that post-test mean scores increased with all 4 categories, with the highest increase in mental awareness from 2.12 to 4.23, or strongly agree. The students reported a neutral to positive experience with MOA website before using it, but reported an agreeable and positive experience after using it. The standard deviation for the post-test scores was lower than pre-test scores, indicating that students had more consistent experience with the website after using it. Same goes with Table 2, with highest increase observed in dealing with repressed anger, from 3.40 to 4.00, or a verbal interpretation of agree. Table 3 represents the significant effects of the website on students. The table shows p-value and alpha level used to determine the statistical significance of the results. Results indicate that MOA website had a significant effect on 4 categories as evidenced by p-values being less than alpha level of 0.05. Thus, the null hypothesis was rejected for this study. According to the results of the survey questionnaires, MOA website has a significant positive impact on students' lives, particularly in areas of mental awareness, personal lifestyle, and well-being. The researchers revealed that the website helps students overcome social anxiety, control intense feelings, and develop better study habits. The website also encouraged users to establish closer relationships among their peers and change the users' ways of resolving conflicts at home. The average weighted mean scores for the MOA website indicated that respondents believe it to be user-friendly. However, the score for accessibility was lower than the others, implying room for improvement in enhancing the website's accessibility for all users. The study found that people with prolonged psychological distress, especially students, have a significant impact on their mood and well-being when using internet services as mental health intervention tools. The study found that the features of MOA website greatly helped students manage their stress, regulate their emotions, and feel less anxious in social situations. It is recommended to first consider upgrading the website to a premium version to enhance user privacy and safety, and to enable access to the website even without the internet connection. For the demo of MOA website, the MOA Web is a user-friendly online platform that offers a range of sources for users once they have logged in for free. The website's homepage features a welcome section, followed by an entertaining page featuring music, videos, and MOApans. A feed page where users can anonymously submit their thoughts and emotions in the Dear MOA section. Furthermore, the platform offers an online forum where users can freely communicate with each other and a self-help article section with mental health related contents. Now, 1 in 4 students don't have to struggle in silence. I express my gratitude to everyone that provided support throughout this research journey. This presentation would not have been possible without the cooperation, guidance, and contributions of our research advisor, Mr. Mark Angel Lugtu, with his assistant, Mr. Manahan, with my group mates, Mr. Barcelona, Mr. Federico, and Ms. Soklum. Thanks for your invaluable insights and encouragement. I hope this research adds to our understanding with regards to the subject matter. Ciao!
Hi there, I'm Wa.
Good day everyone. My name is Jesus Birimo from Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics strand of Senior High School of Aureliano University, Juan Sumulong Campus. I am here to present to you our research entitled The Potential of Shredded High-Density Polyethylene Waste as an Additive to Concrete Mixture. High-density polyethylene is the common plastic that we see and use in our daily lives. This kind of plastic, such as bottles, rubbers, and pipes, take long period of time to decompose and are harmful to our environment. Shredded polyethylene can be added to our cement compound-based mixture. As we make this kind of product, we focus to reuse and recycle plastic materials and to circulate it into a more meaningful stuff, such as brick or blocks. For our statement of the problem, we have arrived at 3 different questions. We the researchers seek to answer the following questions below. The first one is that where shredded high-density polyethylene performed admirably in terms of 3 different factors, which is first one is the compressive strength, second one absorption, and last one is the moisture content. Second SOP, does the polyblock with HDPE show higher results in terms of strength and absorption than the ordinary hollow blocks? Third one is that what concentration level of shredded high-density polyethylene showed greater improvement? First is the 25% polyethylene concentration, and the second one is the 50% polyethylene concentration. For our conceptual framework, we have utilized the IPO format, or the input, process, and the output. So for the input, we have included the materials that we have used in order for us to arrive at our product, which are the HDPE, cement, gravel sand, and water. For the process, we have involved the procedures or steps that we followed for us to make our product, which are cutting of HDPE plastics, mixing all aggregates and component of cement mixture, and pouring the mixture into the mold and setting it for dry. Lastly, for our output, it is composed of the product that we have made or the polyblock itself. So, or the methodology and participants, we the researchers have utilized the quantitative experimental research design for us to quantify and draw conclusions from the test findings and population sample. We have also utilized the purposive sampling technique for us to gather the necessary data for this study. For our respondents, the primary subject in this study are consisted of 30 grade 12 STEM students from Aureliano University, Juan Sumulong campus that will pursue civil engineering courses in college. For the research tools, we have used two different tools in this study, which is the laboratory equipments and the second one, Likert scale through survey responses. So for the results of the laboratory equipments, we have arrived at the following results. First, for the compressive strength, polyblock showed 1,239.5 psi and 8.5 MPa, while the CHB showed results of 368 psi and 3 MPa. For the absorption, the polyblock showed 14.5% absorption rate, while the CHB showed 12% absorption rate. And lastly, for the moisture content, the polyblock showed 49.5 moisture content, while the CHB showed 49% moisture content with minor differences. While the second one is the results from the survey responses. The average responses from the questions in the performance of the polyblocks varied in different aspects. In comparing the material structure of polyblocks and ordinary hollow blocks, polyblocks was found to have a greater strength with high to very high potential levels, while the ordinary hollow blocks The ordinary hollow blocks were weaker with moderate to low potential levels. Next, for the discussion of this study, the average compressive strength and average absorption test of the polyblock was compared in concrete hollow blocks to know the differences between the two concrete mixtures. The survey for polyblocks as plastic pollution reduction approach shows that the respondents' responses are close enough in stating that the polyblocks are eco-friendly and help the environment minimize pollution and plastic waste. Furthermore, recycling plastic waste into eco-friendly construction materials can assist in the reduction of plastic waste in landfills while also improving economic growth and construction. Next, for our conclusion, the average responses from questions in the performance of the polyblocks varied in different aspects. The results yielded high potential level for the polyblocks, which means that the block is strong. Polyblocks is proof that it's strong enough to be used in construction purposes. The absorption rate of the polyblocks is proved to have low results, which indicates that it is durable in environment with high humidity. The moisture content of the polyblock showed high result that caused by the increase of the porosity of the block, resulting to slight reduction into the polyblock's compressive strength. For our recommendations, we, the researchers, arrived at the certain recommendations. First one is that the researchers advise future researchers to employ different HDPE plastic sizes and types as well as alternative materials like grinding or shredded equipment to study the physical properties of the HDPE plastics. Second one is that the researchers recommended trying another laboratory tests such as lump test, modulus of elasticity, flexural strength, and the fire resistant test. For the third one, for the concrete mixture substitute or for fine aggression made of other materials like PVC, LDPE, polycarbonate, or thermoplastics can be used to distinguish between the assessment of usefulness of other plastics. It is highly advisable to measure the materials according to their volume incorporated in the mixture and recorded the time intervals in the process of making the product. The researchers also recommended to use CHP and polyblocks of exactly similar dimensions to have accurate results in comparing of two different concrete mixtures. The researchers also suggest to utilize a more knowledgeable sample respondents such as graduating civil engineering students or civil engineering themselves to arrive at more reliable results. The researchers also advise future researchers to identify the possible market value of the product and the lifespan of it in different weather conditions. So this one is the QR code which links to the documentations in the whole conduct of the research study. So that ends our research presentation regarding our title, The Potential of Shredded High-Density Polyethylene Waste as Additive to Concrete Mixture. Thank you for listening.
Good day everyone, I'm Erlyn May Titinagan from the Senior High Department from Arellano University, 1 Sumulong Campus. I will be introducing our study titled, The Use of Silken Tofu as an Egg Substitute for Binding Donuts for grade 12 students of Arellano University, 1 Sumulong Campus. Eggs are essential ingredients in the food industry since they give a variety of products, a unique texture, and appealing flavor. However, there are numerous factors such as allergies, sustainability, and consumers' trends towards flexitarian diets, specifically in baking, have stimulated these questions stated by Griseo and Speck. The main concern that is emphasized in this study is the fluctuating price of eggs in the Philippines. According to United Broiler Raisers Association San Diego, that the price of eggs are still rising from 5 pesos in January 2021 to 19 pesos in January 2023. To provide a resolve, silken tofu is used as an egg substitute that provides binding in cooking. Furthermore, Pat et al. Stated that tofu is natural plant-based, inexpensive, and nourishing food which can be alternative to eggs by people in developed as well as developing nations, such as the Philippines. This study will answer the following questions. First, what is the demographic profile of the respondents in terms of gender, knowledge of binding elements in cooking? Second, what are the differences when using silken tofu as an egg substitute in binding donuts compared to using eggs in regards to the following: appearance, taste, texture. Third, does substituting eggs with silken tofu have an impact on lowering the cost production of making donuts? Fourth, does replacing eggs with silken tofu in making donuts have an impact on the overall satisfaction and grade of students regarding their gender? Quantitative research and experimental research was the method employed on the study. The following procedures are done for the experiment. 1. Roughly mash tofu until slightly smooth. 2. Add the evaporated milk and sugar to the mixture. 3. Add the instant dry yeast and a little bit of oil. 4. Whisk the mixture until well combined. 5. Gradually add the flour and mix with a rubber spatula. 6. Rest the dough for 1 hour. 7. Portion the dough into bite size. 8. Add oil to the pan and heat it until it is hot enough. 9. Fry and cook the donuts until golden brown. 10. Coat the fried donuts in sugar. The demographic profile of the respondents' genders is 20% or 8 of the respondents are male, and the remaining 80% or 32 are female. Based on their knowledge with the binding elements of cooking, the respondents' profile showed that all of them answered yes in considering that themselves knowledgeable about the topic. There are 3 determinants to assess the difference of silken tofu donuts and regular donuts. 1. The result gains from the appearance perceptions consumers indicated that the silken tofu and regular donuts have a similarity appearance-wise. 2. The results of the consumer's taste perceptions have the same outcome in terms of appearance, with both silken tofu and regular donuts having a similarity. The taste also got the highest overall rating gain. Lastly, consumers' texture perceptions, on the other hand, acquired their lowest overall rating. However, it indicated that the silken tofu donuts and regular donuts are similar in their texture. With regards to the cost reduction of tofu for producing donuts, consumers' perceptions signifies that tofu can indeed have an impact in lowering the cost production of donuts as opposed to using eggs. The finding shows that using silken tofu as a substitute for eggs and a binder for donuts have no effect in overall satisfaction in terms of gender. It is also found that the overall satisfaction rate was higher for females than males. Respondents are appropriate for studies of objectives and yield optimal findings. Although the results of the survey have not produced the highest rating regarding the legend, it still signifies that the overall taste, appearance, and texture of the silken tofu donuts have a similarity to donuts made with eggs. Consumers are informed when it comes to cost of productions, which is why they agree with this. As a result, most of them believe that silken tofu help lower the cost of production when making donuts. The silken tofu can substitute eggs in producing donuts and still have similar taste, appearance, and texture. When it comes to overall satisfaction of grade 12 students regarding on gender, silken tofu is an effective egg substitute for binding donuts. It is recommended to experiment with the option of baking the silken tofu donuts instead of frying them to assess whether the appearance, flavor, and the consistency of the donuts will be more satisfactory to consumers.
Good afternoon to each and everyone that is present today in our research colloquium. I would like to honor the co-authors of our research, Ms. Joyce Verdita, Ms. May Eliano, Ms. J.V. Lisada, Ms. Jane Mangubat, Mrs. Vilma Sahulga, and Mrs. Jonalyn Tamundo. Our research is entitled Parents' Involvement in the Implementation of Online Learning Modality at Arellano University Elementary Department. For our introduction, the spread of COVID-19 worldwide has forced many governments to suspend in-person schooling. This is a period of high concern about the quality of education throughout the world. For continuing education, shifting from traditional classroom lectures to online learning is now the greatest solution. By Wang and Lee, 2021. Online learning modality has emerged as the primary substitute format, putting extra pressure on parents who are not well prepared to take on the teacher's role. It is evident that there has been drastic changes in learning modalities, which have led teachers and parents to adjust their views on education and accept technological advancement. Parents' involvement plays a significant role in education during the pandemic. Online learning modality has emerged as the primary substitute format and was implemented at Arellano University. This study aimed to investigate and gain insights into the parents' involvement in the implementation of online modality at the elementary department. This research is use of the quantitative descriptive survey and qualitative team analysis.
For the statement of the problem, specifically, this study sought to answer the following questions. First, ano ang demograpikong profile ng mga taga-tugon batay sa kasarian at bilang ng anak na nag-aaral? Second, sino ang kadalasang gumagabay o nagtuturo sa inyong mga anak sa online class? Third, ano-ano ang mga pamamaraan sa pagtuturo ang inyong ginagamit upang magabayan ang inyong mga anak? Fourth, ano-ano ang nagiging hamon sa paggabay sa pag-aaral ng inyong mga anak sa online learning at paano ninyo ito tinugunan? Fifth, ano-ano ang mga bagay na nakatutulong sa inyo upang magabayan ang pag-aaral ng inyong mga anak sa bahay?
Sixth, ano ang pinakamahalagang bagay ang natutunan ninyo bilang magulang at tagapagsubaybay sa inyong mga anak sa online learning?
For the methods, the study made use of quantitative descriptive survey and qualitative team analysis to describe the parents' involvement in the implementation of the online learning modality at Arellano University Elementary Department. Purposive sampling has been used for selecting the respondents in this study. The study was conducted in the Elementary Department, Juan Sumulong Campus, Arellano University, Ligarda, Manila. The respondents were parents of elementary pupils who were currently enrolled in Arellano University, Juan Sumulong Campus, comprising of 15 male and 103 female respondents. The researchers used a researchers-made survey questionnaires composed of 6 questions. The questions were written in Filipino to be easily understood by the parents. The survey instruments were sent to the respondents through an online platform since the situation did not allow physical contact. All the data gathered were treated with the highest confidentiality and were used only for the sole purpose of the study.
For the result and discussion, in terms of gender, there were more female respondents compared to male respondents. Among the respondents, 92% have 1 to 2 children enrolled at Arellano University for the academic school year 2021-2022. The majority of the pupils were guided by their mothers in their online classes at home because they were more available and patient with their children. In order to help their children adjust to the new normal way of teaching and learning, parents look at the various kinds of guiding and teaching techniques, including iba't ibang kagamitang pampagkatuto, personal na paggabay, pagdidisiplina, and pakikipag-ugnayan sa mga guro. The most common challenges encountered by the respondents fell under the category parents' concerns, issues which includes parents' work, free or available time, home responsibilities, parents' knowledge about the lessons, and children having the schedule of classes. Respondents addressed this by becoming better time managers, developing longer patience with their kids, and watching posted video lessons too in order to fully comprehend the lesson. The online instructional materials the teachers provided and uploaded to guide their pupils' learning at home were frequently used by the respondents as learning tools and techniques, followed by the use of printed materials, reward and support systems, and the use of gadgets as the list. The respondents also gained insight while they were in the process of mentoring their kids in the online learning modality. Among the insights gained by the respondents, being patient, understanding, and flexible was ranked first, followed by constant support and assistance. Efficient time management and the importance of providing the appropriate tools to be used in the online class and an environment that is conducive for learning.
Based on the conclusions and findings of the study, the following recommendations are hereby offered. First, develop a strong partnership with parents through constant communication and collaboration. Teachers and parents need to work hand in hand in order to meet and sustain the learning of the students. Second, it is recommended that the school offer its partners webinars or courses that will aid them in leading their children through their online programs and enhance their teaching techniques at home. Third, provisions of both printed and online resources for the parents to have options and alternatives in case of conflicts in using gadgets at home. Fourth, it is also advised that teachers give the kids enough time to complete the online activities, at most 1 week, since parents are typically available on the weekends to help their children. Fifth, teachers may add other supplemental online resources, learning materials that will support the lessons. And sixth, provide parenting seminars that will address parents' issues on time management, factors that affect students' learning, and sharing of best parenting practices. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Michelle Antraqueña, and I will be presenting our research study entitled Students' Perspective on Online and Face-to-Face Learning in the 6th grade Students, together with my co-researchers, Mr. Roland Hemino and Ms. Rolanda Rotamola.
In the present circumstances, online learning and face-to-face learning are quickly emerging as two of the most efficient methods of delivering education. Rapid advancement in internet-based technology have brought both openings and challenges to the field of education and training. Particularly for online instruction, online and face-to-face learning are both proven to be beneficial for people to connect and forge shared experiences. The reach is widened by the online learning environment, which enables students to engage in a community they might not to otherwise be able to access in a physical face-to-face context. Students are being urged to assume more responsibility for their own knowledge acquisition as a result of the growth of online learning. This research aims to reach the students' perspective about the efficiency between online and face-to-face learning in grade 6 students from Arellano University Andres Bonifacio campus.
The following studies address the effects of online learning and face-to-face learning on the 6th grade students. Paul and Jefferson said online and traditional learning share many similarities. According to Robles, students preferred face-to-face learning because of the interaction that comes with it, thus suggesting that face-to-face classes are preferred by most students. According to Ignacio, the new curriculum's learning demands have been arduous and have placed a heavy load on individuals who are struggling to adjust to the sudden changes that the pandemic has brought.
The goal of this study is to determine the perception on online learning and face-to-face learning. 1. What is the respondent's demographic profile in terms of section, gender, and age? 2. How do students perceive about online learning and face-to-face learning in terms of students' persuasion in studying? 3. In which platform encourages you to read and fully understand the content of the text. 4. Are students more productive through face-to-face or online learning? And 5. Is there a significant differences in learning modalities between online and face-to-face learning? The methods we use are quantitative and descriptive research. We gather data by observing what respondents have to say about they feel on online versus in-person learning. We administered a questionnaire to the students to obtain the data. With 63 participants of Grade 6 Solidarity and Grade 6 Stewardship, students from Arellano University for the school year 2022 to 2023. According to the findings, as a result of COVID-19, online learning and face-to-face learning are quickly emerging as two of the most efficient methods of delivering education, allowing learners to benefit from both methods of learning. We conducted this research to learn about the students' perspectives and online and face-to-face learning in 6th grade. Although there are some advantages and disadvantages to both online and face-to-face learning, despite these challenges, we found that both online learning and face-to-face learning are effective for students. Based on the findings and conclusion of this study, here are the suggested recommendations below. 1. The school must provide more engaging and interactive learning materials and activities appropriate for the learner's age through books and LMS. 2. The school, particularly the teachers, should encourage pupils to use online learning tools like e-book and LMS in addition to books as learning resources. 3. The school must maintain a friendly environment with each child guardian through quarterly meeting appointments so that the guardian can be aware of their child's performance and how they can help the child, during with the teachers to improve his or her education and be motivated. Thank you for listening.
Increasing pupil participation through online game-based instruction. Distance learning is very different from face-to-face learning. According to ADEC Innovation, as pupils continue their education from their own homes, they face distraction that may hinder them from completing the required coursework. The intervention proposed in this action research is the use of online game-based activities to increase pupil class participation during synchronous classes. For this research, we use quantitative and action research. For the respondents, we have 19 grade 5 pupils of Arellano University, Apolinario Mabini campus. We use pre-intervention and post-intervention recitation tally scores and class observation. For data gathering procedure, conduct a regular Araling Panlipunan synchronous class, tally the number of times each pupil recited, and observe the participation of the pupils. Conduct another Araling Panlipunan synchronous class using an online game-based method during discussion. Tally the number of times each pupil recited and observe the participation of the pupils. Pre-intervention observations. Most of the time, the same pupils volunteer to read concepts and answer the questions given by the teacher during and after discussion. When the intervention was implemented, there has been an increase in the number of pupils who participated and answered the question as seen on Table 1. Post-intervention observations. The results show that the mean score of the post-intervention, 4.294, is higher than the mean of the score of the pre-intervention, 1.59. When the online game-based activity was implemented, the pupils were more attentive and there was an increase in their participation in class. In conclusion, this action research was effective in increasing the participation of grade 5 pupils in Araling Panlipunan. Through the online game-based activity, the pupils became more attentive, participative, and excited to answer the questions given by the teacher even if they are unsure of their answers. Online game-based activities will help in getting the attention of pupils and increase their participation during the discussion. It is also recommended to conduct the research in other subject areas, grade levels and for a longer period of time.
The use of show and tell teaching strategy in improving pupil participation and engagement in online Araling Panlipunan.
Performance tasks are an effective teaching method and provide pupils with the little different and challenging tasks at home, and keep them motivated and focused on meaningful learning. Araling Panlipunan is one of the few subjects that pupils find hard to comprehend during face-to-face classes and now during online classes. The teacher in charge had observed that her pupils were not engaging and participating during their AP classes. The statement of the problem. This study focused on the use of a show-and-tell teaching strategy to increase pupils' interest and responses in online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Show and tell is a school activity for young children in which a child brings an object into the class and talks to other children about it. And with that, the research question we aim to answer and explore in this action research is, how does a show and tell strategy increase pupil engagement in AP class?
The research design that we use is a qualitative method with a phenomenological approach. Qualitative research with a phenomenological approach investigates understanding and exploring a phenomenon carried out by a person or group of people. For this action research, the researchers aim to investigate the effectiveness of the show and tell strategy to increase the grade 3 pupils' participation and engagement during Araling Panlipunan synchronous classes.
The study participants are the grade 3 pupils in Arellano University Apolinario Mabini campus who are currently in online distance learning. Overall, there are 16 pupils enrolled in grade 3 for school year 2020-2021. Out of 16, 15 are for online distance learning and only 1 for modular distance learning.
The instruments and tools that were used in the study are the following. The first is class observation. The researchers took notes of significant observations from the pre-intervention and intervention phase. This aided in comparing the data gathered. According to Jones 2018, recording notes are written explanations or data taken often by multiple observers at a single event, capturing interactions of interest to the more prominent topic under study. It is a detailed descriptive narrative recorded after a specific behavior or interaction occurs. Hand in hand with this is the video class documentation, wherein the synchronous AP classes were recorded. Researchers were able to watch the class recording and review the significant behaviors and experiences of the pupils.
For the data gathering, we conducted an Araling Panlipunan synchronous class and observed the pupils' participation during the discussion. The topic is all about pakinabang pang-ekonomiko sa mga likas na yaman ng rehiyon. The teacher assigned each pupil to bring any object or image that represents the region they are assigned to. For example, this student is required to bring any representation or any object that represents the NCR region. Another example, this student is assigned to bring any object or image that represents Bicol region. We conducted another Araling Panlipunan synchronous class with the same lesson, but this time the pupils brought an object or image that represents the region they are assigned to show and tell to their classmates. Lastly, we observed the pupils' participation during show and tell to their classmates and asked if they understood the lesson. For the data analysis, we have the comparison between the pre-intervention and post-intervention observational notes.
So here are our observations.
During the pre-intervention, some pupils were asking questions while others just listened and noticeably looked uninterested in the lesson. So as we all know, teachers, especially in the primary levels, are having a hard time in catching students' attention. So pupils try to respond to teachers' questions through guessing and prior knowledge. So when the teacher asked about the products of the regions, the pupils do not respond and waited for the teacher's answer and continue with the discussion. And after discussing the problem in AP class, the primary teachers thought of a strategy, and that is the show and tell activity that will make the class interactive and the pupils will participate in the discussion. So here are our post-interventions. Pupils were excited to show their pictures and actual products of the region they are assigned to with the class. Pupils are active during the discussion whenever they see their classmates' products and pictures.
So based on the pre-intervention phase, most pupils were not interested in listening nor engaging with the AP lesson being discussed. So the teacher assigned each pupils to show or draw a picture of the famous products of their assigned region. During the class discussion, pupils prepared their homework and were ready to present and discuss the region and products on hand. According to the post-intervention observation, pupils were engaging and participating, eager to answer the teacher's questions, and enjoyed listening to their classmates' presentation. So here are our conclusion and recommendations. Based on the results of the study, the use of show and tell is recommended in AP classes to increase pupil participation. So this definitely answers our research question. How does a show and tell strategy increase pupil engagement in AP class? So based on our research, the show and tell teaching strategy gives pupils an opportunity to speak up in front of their classmates and speak about the objects that interest them, to build confidence and helps pupils develop effective communication skills. And it gives pupils an opportunity to become inquisitive, interested, and engaged during class discussions. Lastly, our last recommendation would be for future research. It is recommended to try in other subject areas and check its effectiveness in other grade levels.
Good day, everyone. Here is our research paper entitled Assessment of the Effectiveness of Learning Management System Pegasus on Online Learning of Elementary Pupils of Arellano University, Plaridel Campus. With the rapid change and innovation in technology, there is no doubt that our education system will also follow the trend. Because of this, learning management systems were introduced and implemented even before the pandemic struck. However, even if the learning management system is already present beforehand, there are features that still need improvement. According to Obana 2021, the reality is that the integration of this technology and its tools still has a long way to go. In line with this, multimedia became an important concept as the web moved away from a largely contextual layout to a graphical one. This research paper aims to address the importance of the learning management system Pegasus on online learning experience of the intermediate pupils of Arellano University Plaridel Campus. This will also discuss the essence of learning management system Pegasus in terms of educational effectiveness, entertainment value, user-friendliness, and design features needed in their online classes. Here are the objectives of the study. First is, what is the assessment of the respondents in the learning management system Pegasus in terms of educational effectiveness, entertainment value, user-friendliness, and design features? Second would be, what are the problems encountered by the respondents in using the learning management system Pegasus? And lastly, what are the recommendations of the respondents to improve the learning management system Pegasus? The researchers used mixed method approach. The researchers used descriptive method that describes, interprets, and explains present conditions and thematic analysis to process the gathered data and identify patterns or themes within and among the responses of the respondents. The researchers conducted the survey and distributed the questionnaires to 82 respondents. The respondents were elementary pupils from Arellano University, Plaridel Campus, intermediate level, grades 4 to 6. The questionnaire consists of 3 parts. The first part is the perception of the respondents about the use of learning management system based on educational effectiveness, entertainment value, user-friendliness, and design features. Second part is the opinion and views of respondents about the problems they have encountered upon using and exploring the learning management system. And lastly, the respondents' recommendations on how to improve the learning management system as a tool for facilitating effective teaching and learning process. For the problem number 1, the table shows the summary for the effectiveness of the learning management system Pegasus. First in the rank is the entertainment value. Second is the design features. Third, we have the educational effectiveness and user-friendliness in rank 4. In general, the pupils' assessment of effectiveness of the learning management system on online learning of elementary pupils of Arellano University Plaridel campus had an overall weighted mean of 3.26 and interpretation of agree, where the verbal description is effective. This only means that the learning management system is effective as a tool for facilitating effective teaching and learning process for the pupils during online learning. For number 2, this area shows the problems encountered by the pupils in using the learning management system Pegasus. Majority of the issues they have encountered are caused by a poor internet connection, difficulties in logging in the system, problems in opening broken files uploaded in the system, automatic lagging out, and confusion by the system's notification. For number 3, this area shows the respondents' recommendation in the learning management system Pegasus. The pupils suggested that the system should be upgraded to support larger files and activities, as well as the addition of attractive elements like colorful, larger font size, and dark mode settings. For conclusion and recommendations, the learning management system Pegasus was found to be effective and relevant to the learning needs of elementary pupils at Arellano University Plaridel campus. It can be used to review lessons, make teaching and learning more effective and enjoyable, and provide a safe and secure data privacy environment. Teachers must use the badges as rewards to engage the pupils more in the learning process, even if it is being done in an online setting. Formative assessment applications can be used such as quizzes, WordWall, and Kahoot to support teaching and learning process. Since our learning management system has a feature that students can message their subject teachers directly if they have encountered broken files. Finally, students would like to enjoy themselves while using the system by listening to the background music, which is not included in the system. Research promotes effective teaching and learning standards for online learning, resulting in high-quality education. According to the findings of this study, the usage of a learning management system should be enhanced, modernized, and in line with the needs of the pupils in order to make the learning experience more fun. To support the content being sought, educators must utilize various interactive multimedia software to strengthen the knowledge acquired through these various software.
Blessed day to everyone. I am Mr. Dominic de los Reyes Zarate from Arellano University Pasig, Junior High School Araling Panlipunan Department. The academic performance of at-risk students has been a concern for educators, as these students face many challenges that can hinder their success in school. In this study, we aim to address that challenge. Thus, the research title, Enhancing Academic Performance of at-risk Grade 10 Students in Araling Panlipunan through Targeted Review of List Mastered Concepts in Second Quarterly Examination. This study was prepared by Mrs. Maria Consuelo D.C. Medina and yours truly, Mr. Dominic V. Zarate. To begin, let me walk you through the specific questions that our researchers aim to answer. First, what are the mean scores for the students in the pretest for both control group and also the experimental group? Second, what are the mean scores of the students in post-test in control group, the group without review technique, and the experimental group, the group with review technique? Third, is there a significant difference between the post-test scores of control group and the experimental group? And lastly, what insights did the learner from the experimental group gain after the implementation of the intervention and utilization of the review technique for the AP remediation program? Now, let me give you a brief overview of the process of how we conducted our study through our research paradigm. First, we identify the target population of our study. These are grade 10 students with 79 and below grade in Araling Panlipunan for the second quarter. We also prepared a research instrument for the pretest, which is based on the preliminary examination for Araling Panlipunan provided by Arellano University. Then we conducted an orientation for the target population through Google Meet. We also sought parental consent from our participants' parents. On the day after the orientation, we gathered all the parents' consent forms from the student and administered the pretest for both the control group and the experimental group. The population was divided into two groups randomly. On the same day, the participants' papers were checked and we conducted item analysis to identify the least mastered concepts. After identifying the least mastered concepts, Mrs. Maria Consuelo Medina, a graduate of Bachelor in Secondary Education major in History, drafted the post-test questionnaires using higher order thinking skills type of questions, which are patterned with the pretest concepts. On the third day, a review session was conducted to the experimental group. Finally, on the fourth day, we conducted the post-test for both groups to determine the effectiveness of the intervention. This study aims to prove that there is an increase in the test scores of experimental group after the implementation of the review technique, indicating that the intervention is effective in improving the academic performance of at-risk grade 10 students in Araling Panlipunan. This study can serve as a basis for the adaptation and implementation of the review technique in Araling Panlipunan subjects 7, 8, and 9. It can also serve as a basis for the adaptation and implementation of the technique in other subject areas for grade levels 7 to 10. For the methodology, the study utilized mixed methods of quantitative research and qualitative research. We make use of a purposive sampling technique since our population is targeted to grade 10 students with 79 and below grade in Araling Panlipunan for the second quarter. Our research instrument to gather quantitative data is composed of a pretest based on the questionnaires from the second preliminary examination for Araling Panlipunan 10, and a post-test questionnaire drafted by a history teacher which revised the pretest questionnaires to higher order thinking skills type of questions. For the qualitative data, we use a questionnaire for reflection purposes intended for the experimental group. The graph on the screen shows the plotted data that the researchers gathered through the use of different statistical treatments such as weighted mean and standard deviation. The researchers also used percentage difference and t-test to identify the significant difference of the control group and the experimental group. The first graph shown on the screen displays comparison of the pretest mean scores and standard deviation of control and experimental group. The second graph shows comparison of the post-test mean scores and standard deviation of control and experimental group. For the qualitative data, the results shows higher improvement in the mean scores of the experimental group than the control group. The post-test mean scores of the experimental group has 15.6 difference more than its pretest mean scores. The experimental group's mean scores doubled in the post-test compared to the pretest. For the qualitative data, the answers of the students revolve into three themes, which are social emotional learning skills, foster a positive attitude towards learning, and motivation to improve academic performance. These are based with the personal experiences of the students from the experimental group. In the end, the researchers come up with the following recommendations. First, utilization of the reviewing as an intervention must be adopted in classroom-based instruction to boost retention, and an intervention to increase student classroom engagement and score quality. and conduct further investigation on using student-generated question techniques as an intervention to boost academic achievement performance in other learning areas. The study makes use of the following references to support the researchers' claim about the effect of the review techniques in enhancing academic performance of at-risk grade 10 students in Araling Panlipunan through targeted review of least mastered concepts. Again, I am Dominic Dizarate. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you always in all ways.
A pleasant day, everyone. I am Miss Angelica R. Bautista from the Junior High School Department of Arellano University 1 Sumulang Campus. Let me present to you our action research with the title Academic Performance of Junior High School Students in English, Science and Technology, and Mathematics at Arellano University 1 Sumulang Campus for the school year 2021-2022. Our proposed course of action. Students' academic performance has always been a topic of interest for educators. It is the knowledge acquired over a certain period, designated by marks and measured either by examinations or continuous assessments. The shift to distance learning accelerated due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The global education system was in jeopardy, particularly in terms of student learning progress and the loss of skills and learning. If these learning loss will not be addressed quickly, it will create more problems in the global community. High academic performance is a set expectation that stakeholders aim for every student. This is also one of the important goals of education. Thus, students' performance and achievements in all subject areas in class are very vital. English, Science and Technology, and Mathematics are the three major subjects that were considered challenging by all students. With this study, the researchers followed the research paradigm that can be found in Figure 1. This action research aimed to evaluate the academic performance of Arellano University 1 Sumulang Campus junior high school students from 1st to 4th grading period in the three major subject areas: English, Science and Technology, and Mathematics. Moreover, this study will answer the following questions. First, what is the mean performance of junior high school students from 1st to 4th grading in English, Science and Technology, and Mathematics? Second, what trend could be discovered from the mean performance of junior high school students in the three subjects? And third, what course of action responds to the identified trend in the three subjects? To answer the questions of this study, the researchers sought permission from the high school principal to use the grades of the students in the grade sheets as primary data. This study utilized an ex post facto research design since students' performance in English, Science and Technology, and Mathematics from grade 7 to 10 serves as the main source of data from 1st to 4th grading period. Also, descriptive method was used to describe and identify the trends of the mean performance of the students across the three subjects. Furthermore, quantitative method was employed to present and analyze the gathered data through tables with the use of the following statistics. First, frequency. Second, percentage. Third, weighted mean. And fourth, standard deviation. Here are the findings and results of this study. The mean performance of the three subjects was assessed from 1st to 4th grading period. First, the mean performance in English. The overall mean performance of junior high school students' grades in English was 83.66 and interpreted as satisfactory with a standard deviation of 7.00. As Figure 3 uncovered, which can be found in the appendices, the frequency of students who receive the highest grades is more than the students who receive the lowest grades, which indicates that the students are heterogeneous. Second, the mean performance in Science and Technology. While most of the grades across the four levels are good in Science and Technology, the students' total mean performance in this subject was 83.56 and interpreted as satisfactory with a standard deviation of 6.71, indicating that the students' academic backgrounds were diverse. As exposed in Figure 4, which can be found in the appendices as well, the frequency of students who receive higher grades is more than the frequency of the students who receive 75 and below in all grade levels of these subjects. And lastly, the mean performance in mathematics. The vast majority of grades are satisfactory in mathematics. Figure 5's presentation of the total mean performance was 84.02, which was considered to be satisfactory. The computed standard deviation of 7.08 in this subject demonstrates that the students are further from each other, indicating that they are diverse. The findings of this study shows that majority received satisfactory grades, which implies that the students met the minimum learning standards specified by the Department of Education.
However, some are still struggling academically. The abrupt change in instructional methods can be used to explain this problem. Students are still adjusting, and many are still grappling with the availability of tools and resources needed for online distance learning. The mean performance of the students in the three subject areas consistently in progression throughout the academic year. However, due to the changes in the standard deviation from particular levels, some modest changes in the data were seen. In line with this, the majority of students performed better in the most recent grading period than the first three grading periods, with the trend maintained increasing or dropping in the middle period. The trend across the three subject areas is improving. The learning progress is manifested from the second after the fourth grading period, while the first grading can be gleaned as the adjustment period. In addition, some grade levels seems to stagnate when it comes to learning progress, but they are still satisfactory. Hence, a strategy or plan must be created to reinforce, enhance, and improve the students' academic performance in the three subject areas. To greatly improve the learning performance of the students, here are the course of action that was identified by the trend of the mean performance. First, peer tutoring. The plan is to ask the students with the highest grades to help and teach the students with the lowest grades during the homeroom class or ICL schedule. Second, providing interactive activities such as ICT integrated activities, brainstorming, think, pair, and share, past sessions, and others. Third, enhancement programs. This will improve the learning habits, ensure mastery of skills, and motivate the students to achieve academic success in the three subject areas. Fourth, parents and teachers partnership and motivation. And last, academic counseling. This too will help the students emotionally and mentally. Students with the lowest grades will refer to the guidance counselor for counseling to assess other factors that affect the student's performance. And with constant monitoring of teachers and parents, this will support the students to do their best and achieve a successful academic performance. Based on the findings of this study, the students showed satisfactory performance attaining the most essential learning competencies of the three subjects. The trend of the students' performance in English, science and technology, and mathematics revealed a progressive incline throughout the school year with little instability. Hence, the following course of action was identified based on the mean performance and standard deviation of the students. First, peer tutoring. Second, providing interactive activities. Third, implementing enhancement program. Fourth, strengthening the parents and teachers partnership. And last, academic counseling. In line with this, the researchers recommend to implement a proposed course of action that can be used to enhance the academic performance of the students in English, science and technology, and mathematics in the coming school year 2023-2024. Also, similar research on this topic may be explored involving other subjects since this study is focused on English, science and technology, and mathematics only. Thus, comparing the performance of the students in online distance learning and face-to-face modality will validate the result of this study. Here are the templates of the proposed enhancement programs for the three subjects. See the attached copy in the appendices for a better view. A sample enhancement program in English with the title Reading the Theme program was shown in the slide prepared by Mrs. Isa P. Tanyada, the subject head of the English department at Arellano University 1 Sumulong campus. The teacher will provide reading text appropriate to the grade level of the students, aligned to the skills that the students need to enhance and develop. The selected learning objectives are copied from the 2016 Curriculum Guide in English. The activities and strategies assigned to each story will help the students learn more and fully understand the topic assigned on the inclusive dates given by the subject teacher. And this is the action research of Arellano University 1 Sumulong campus. Thank you and have a nice day.
Psychosocial evaluation of junior and senior high school students of Arellano University 1 Sumulong campus, school year 2022-2023, basis for proposed enhancement program. Introduction: the 21st century has been the emerging pandemic of mental illnesses. In preparation for face-to-face classes, learners need to be prepared as they experience various situations and emotions during the pandemic. These studies have to determine the psychosocial standing of junior and senior high school students for the purpose of formulating enhancement programs. Specifically, it aimed to answer the following questions. First, what is the psychosocial evaluation of the junior high school students? Second, what is the psychosocial evaluation of the senior high school students? And third, based on the results of the study, what recommendation can be made to enhance the psychosocial evaluation of the high school students? The researchers also conceptualized or also formulated a conceptual framework to be able to conduct the study. Methodology: the study utilized the descriptive research method. The participants used are the junior and senior high school students for school year 2022-2023 through the use of random selection and convenience sampling. The tool used was the Depth and Psychosocial Evaluation Questionnaire provided in the Psychosocial Activity Pack or the PSAP. The researchers determined the mean scores of each item with verbal descriptions and computed for the grand weighted mean to determine the overall interpretation. Next, results and discussion. What is the psychosocial evaluation of the junior high school students? 5 out of 13 items have strongly agree interpretations, while 8 items are interpreted as agree. The item number 13, or pinoprotektahan ko ang aking sarili mula sa pagkakasakit o epekto ng mga hindi inaasahang pangyayari gaya ng mga sakuna, got the highest weighted mean of 4.68, described as strongly agree. Item number 3, binabahagi ko ang aking mga iniisip at nararamdaman sa aking mga kamag-aral, guro, kaibigan, mga magulang o tagapangalaga ng walang alinlangan, got the lowest weighted mean of describe as agree. The general weighted mean of 4.40 interpreted as very good, meaning answers the question, what is the psychosocial evaluation of the junior high school students? What is the psychosocial evaluation of the senior high school students? 7 out of 13 items have strongly agree descriptions. The item number 4, pinapagaan ko ang aking pakiramdam at pinapakalma ko ang aking sarili kapag ako'y maraming inaalala o nararamdaman na sama ng loob, got the highest weighted mean of 4.65, which is described as strongly agree. While item number 13, pinaprotektahan ko ang aking sarili mula sa pagkakasakit o epekto ng mga hindi inaasang pangyayari ng mga sakuna, got the lowest weighted mean of 3.97, which is interpreted as agree. General weighted mean of 4.44 has interpretation of very good. This answers the question, what is the psychosocial evaluation of the senior high school student? Third, based on the result of the study, what recommendations can be done to enhance the psychosocial evaluation of the high school students? Based on the result of the study, the researchers proposed the following programs below to further enhance and sustain the psychosocial well-being of the students. First, the researchers recommended psychosocial enhancement sessions among students, also psychosocial workshops and modules, parental monitoring, and self-improvement activities. For conclusion and recommendation, the overall findings of the junior and senior high school psychosocial evaluations are rated as very good. Since the results showed the overall findings and showed very close scores, it is challenging to identify weak points or specific areas for improvement. Researchers recommend program or interventions that could promote general development. Future studies are recommended to categorize the psychosocial result based on different factors to specifically address the areas of improvement. It is also recommended to conduct a needs assessment that will pinpoint the student's psychological and social requirement. These are our significant references.
Good day, everyone. We are from the Senior High School Research Department of Arellano University, Jose Rizal Campus. And we are here to present our research titled Development of Unified Reference Material System for Social Science Department of Arellano University, Jose Rizal Campus. For our introduction, the creation of a unified reference material system makes it possible to provide for professors in Arellano University, Jose Rizal Campus with standardized reference and guidance. In addition to learning resources, this will also include a comprehensive list of instructional tools such as modules, daily lesson plans, syllabi, and other details pertaining to the main disciplines within the social science department. Teachers will therefore be expected to execute at a standard level. With this research aims to develop a system wherein unified reference materials will be able and will be available for teachers for a better instruction in class. Providing unified materials will surely help with the improvement of the development of lessons and avoid problems like undiscussed contents included in the departmental examinations. So for the scope and delimitation of the study, we have 22 social sciences department teachers in our senior high school department and 2 subject coordinators with a total of 24. As for the methodology, we have implemented the research design, the applied research method. And here we have used a research instrument, which is the survey questionnaire. And for the statistical treatment, we have used the weighted mean. For the research paradigm, we have here the IPO, wherein in the input, we have knowledge requirement that is needed, software requirements, and also hardware requirements as was listed. Processes, here we have system designs, system testing, conducting of surveys, and analysis and interpretation of the data. And as for the output, the researchers expected to have a development of unified reference materials for Social Science Department of Arellano University, Jose Rizal Campus. For the flowcharts, it is illustrated here the different types of users that will be able to access the system. We have first the faculty or the users page, the subject coordinators page, and the admins page. These 3 flowchart will be able to tell us the differences of the access that will be given to each users. For the results and discussion, the Unified Reference Materials has a lot of easy to understand features. So the system has been developed and it is now a prototype system. So here we can see the home page as was illustrated. And in the home page, you can see the sign up and the login page. Once you don't have your access yet, you may sign up and then log in to our page. And then, once you have logged in, you would be directed to the dashboard wherein you will see some tabs and other activities, calendar of activities that is accessible to you, such as the news and updates, webinars and programs, and authors and biography and other related materials. You can also access the specialized subject page and the core subject page. In here, you would be able to see the specific subjects that you wanted to look for. For example, you wanted to look for the subject of UCSP. Once you click on that subject, you will now be redirected to the reference materials page. Once you are directed there, you would be able to see the MELC. You would be able to review what would be the subject focus, what will be the standard lessons that you need to apply and need to teach in that class. Also, in this page, you would be able to use or you would be able to see modules or other syllabi and other DLPs and PowerPoint for your reference and materials that you would use in your class. We also have project capabilities and limitations. So one of the capabilities is that the users can easily log into the system just by providing information that you will be able to fill out using a computerized form. Subject coordinators can easily edit and update the reference materials. The capability of administrators to approve and manage the entire system, meaning the administrators can and have to approve first the reference materials that the subject coordinators uploaded in order to be seen by the other teachers. So the limitation of the project is that the system is only for social science subject teachers and coordinators. It can only be accessed via desktop or laptop computers. The system cannot provide the content of reference books since it incorporates copyright law. So in conclusion, the researchers concluded that the Unified Reference Material System may expunge such issues in distributing unequal resources to the students. It is also effective in establishing and dissemination of standard departmental examinations, and it provides an access for the teachers to a unified learning material that can be used in facilitating learning in the classroom. As for the recommendation, this study about the Unified Reference Material System has enlightened the researchers about the possibilities of creating a platform that would create accurate, efficient, and versatile standardized reference materials. As a recommendation for future researchers of the study related to this, we recommend that there should be a focus with the research and the other learning materials that would be accessible, and the references should be stated, and it should also be focused, and it should also involve other subject areas and other subject teachers. Thank you for listening. We hope that you have learned a lot in our research and hope that you would be able to help us develop this study. Again, we are the researchers from the Senior High School Research Department of Arellano University, Jose Rizal Campus.
Good day, everyone. We are from Arellano Plaridel Campus, conducting the study
Blended Learning, a comparison of students' academic performance during the face-to-face and online learning.
I am Miss Megan Prado.
I am Mr. Marvin M. Calano. Okay, so to discuss the introduction of the study, may I call on Miss Megan Prado.
Thank you, Mr. Kalanok. So for nearly 10 years, the remote instruction of the Department of Education has been transitioned to blended learning, where students were able to have physical and virtual classes. And because of this, there have been a lot of readjustments regarding the grades of the student, leading to the possible fluctuations on their academic performance. Within these, this study aims to first, see what is the performance of the students during face-to-face and online learning, and see if there is a significant difference between each modalities. Third, during face-to-face and online classes, can teacher retention actually affect students' academic performance? And lastly, we aim to create an effective instructional intervention program that can be crafted based on the results of this study. Here we have the research paradigm where we categorize blended learning into two parts only, which is face-to-face classes and online, where we are going to see the academic performance rather of the students, and to look at the idea that teacher retention could be a possible influence of such. And lastly, we are going to create an effective instructional material or intervention program if there are any differences seen within the study. For the theoretical framework, we have used experiential learning theory. This is by Kolb 2015, and this idea relates to the holistic approach of learning, as well as the experiences of the students, which could be related to their physical or virtual lessons. And for the methods and designs, we have incorporated mixed method, which allowed us to investigate both using deductive and inductive. Specifically, we incorporated ex post factor research design as the result of the examination of the students has been already presented before we started the study. For the results, let's have Mr. Calano.
Thank you, Ms. Megan, for the description of the performance of the senior high school students in the face-to-face and online classes according to its frequency, mean, and standard deviation. Since we conducted a mixed method, so I will go to present first the quantitative side of the study. As depicted in the table, it shows that students across the strands performed well on both modalities, indicating the effective method of facilitating. Within this, the ideas show that academic tracks, UMS and STEM, have sustained excellent scores which may be related to the nature of these strands, curriculums that center to knowledge. Moreover, there is an evident decrease among the scores of ABM learners was recorded. This might be rooted in the use of online versus physical accounting journals as compared to STEM students, which the university has provided with virtual laboratory to bridge the gaps performance of learners. Also, similar data was collected accounting students by Al-Sufrat et al. In 2001. In his study, he noted that the difference between the academic performance of students during face-to-face and online was affected by attitudes of the students and the perception of the use of and the usefulness of subject involved. Furthermore, as you can see in the table, each learners might have analogous results as they must shift from learning with materials and alternatives found within their homes to actual equipment in the academy, which may lead to learning disparities. Moreover, ICT students indicated a better learning outcome in traditional classroom environment as direct access to instructors was available. To see if there is a significant difference between learners' achievement within two approaches, the researchers employed a t-test and the results are depicted as shown in the table. Among the strands, only ABM and HE displayed statistical significance or yielded significant difference. Follow the experiences and use them to navigate the learning process. Nonetheless, the shift from the face-to-face before the pandemic to online and after face-to-face learning might have led to confusion and inadequate number of experiences which they may relate to and reflect during traditional classes. This idea is also supported by the influence of attitude and perception of students as what found out in the study by Toti and Aliport 2021. Okay, lastly, to interpret or to present the results in terms of understanding if teacher retentions influence academic performance, here's Miss Megan Prado to discuss.
Thank you, Sir Calano. So let's understand the effects of the teacher retention on the students' academic performance during face-to-face and online classes. The first thing that we notice is that there is an influence regarding the academic performance of the students as well as the retention of the teachers. This is because the students have been accustomed to the teacher's teaching style, and having new instructors will mean new adjustments. Aside from that, having a lot of teachers for the same subject actually decreases their classroom satisfaction because of the differences in the standards of these teachers that they be needing to meet. And lastly, they actually see that the exit of their teachers may create disadvantages to their academic performance because they believe that these teachers are one of their support system inside of the institution. And for the general findings, we have the idea that despite the problems we faced during the pandemic, the institution continued to provide quality education. Nonetheless, there are actually factors that could affect the delivery and the learning during this process. And within that, we recommend that we can continue the process of teaching the children. However, we need to seek avenues that will conform to the changes in the trend of the education, particularly the integration of technology, which bridges students across the learning style. Likewise, for the ABM and HE students, where most of the significant difference was seen, we recommend to have more interactive training and instruction within the institution. And for the action plan, let's have Mr. Kalan.
Okay, in order to address the research question number 4, what effective instructional monitoring plan or instructional intervention plan that we're going to propose, this is the action plan for 2023 to 2024. In here, we found out that some key areas or some key issues that we need to strengthen in terms of the curriculum and instruction. We found what is in terms of asking what is it that we need to do or accomplish right away, right now, as soon as possible. We need to use the most the MELCs in creating learning activities, as well as we're going to review the learning guides or syllabi. And the persons involved here are all faculty members, and responsible for that is the principal or the administrators. And at the end of that, we expect the instructions are more focused in development of cognitive skills and critical thinking skills. We also identify some key areas or concerns about the development of the faculty, in which in the action objectives, we mentioned that enhancing the competencies of all faculty members in the new modalities of teaching and cope up with the demands of the new normal life of teachers. And also, we're going to give a trainings webinars and seminars through the help of the IT members, but all faculty members, as well as the administrators of the Arellano University Plata campus. And we expect that all faculty will be trained in teaching using ODL or face-to-face learning. Lastly, we found out based on the result of the study that the students should be focused on, we will focus on the students. The action objectives towards that are we were going to train students to adopt blended learning and cope up with the demands and alleviate the learning gaps among students as we have shown in the result. And also by doing this, we provide resources need that we need to orient orientation. There is an orientation of the students in ODL and F2F. And we will implement this from the beginning of the school year up to the end through the help of our school administrators. And we expect a high academic performance in regards to this matter.
Thank you very much for listening.